What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Valley, coming at you with the one, the only, the certified fantabulous, Mr. Grant Hughes. Busy day around these parts today. We got to talk about the Knicks being the NBA's next and maybe its best ever dynasty. The Cleveland Cavaliers' future is very hazy. We've got a Game 7, rumor has it, in this thing called the Conference Finals. That might be entertaining. And everyone's favorite topic, which we've just never discussed on this podcast, draft lottery reform. Inject it all the way into Grant's veins. First and foremost, before we get started, Grant, how the heck are you doing?
I'm excited to be here to hit just several topics that we haven't talked about the Knicks since they advanced. We haven't talked about Game 7 because it just got confirmed several hours ago as we're recording this. We have talked lottery reform, but this is one of those rare situations where we actually do disagree, I think, fundamentally about it. And I would say if among the criticisms of our dynamic is that we don't disagree enough. So I am excited to have some civil discourse with you that will devolve into personal insults and storming out, probably.
My open take on draft lottery reform is that you're as dumb as Adam Silver.
Thank you for that.
Are you able to, did you have it pulled up, or do you want me to go through like the draft lottery reform was approved 29-1. The Grizzlies were the only team that voted against it, which just sort of was funny because go ahead.
Yeah, no, right. But go ahead. I cut you off. The reason that they were against it was purely self-interested in a short-term sense, right? Like, it's not like they had fundamental disagreements with the whole deal.
Right. And so because they control the Jazz's pick, and because the Grizzlies have one of the rules, we'll get into everything, but one of the big ones is you can't have the number 1 overall pick in consecutive drafts, and you also cannot have a top 5 pick in, what is it, 2 of 3 years, or is it 3 consecutive drafts? So or is it consecutive? Look, I'm already being tripped up by my words. But because this applies to having another team's pick as well. So in theory, the Grizzlies, they're drafting number 3 this year. If the Jazz, for some reason, send them the number 5 pick next year, even though it's not the Grizzlies' pick, the Grizzlies get moved to 6th. That's per ESPN's Tim Bontemps. That's how it would work. I find that, like, of all the things that I have an issue with, like the why didn't they grandfather in these other selections is not really one that I have empathy for. It's just you trade these picks, you make these deals knowing that the system could change, because the NBA has changed not just this system, but other systems before. The way the salary cap, like teams that signed contracts before the era of aprons were probably not thrilled when they implemented those aprons in the collective bargaining agreement. So that's the one. I have a couple concerns. I should be more open-minded, because I wanted to give you the floor to explain why you think that this is actually a good thing. I think the response, before you get into it, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems pretty divisive, maybe in a good way, or a confusing way, where a lot of smart people seem to dislike it, a ton of other smart people seem to endorse it, and so it leaves me kind of stranded in between. So I don't know who's right. I personally don't love it, or I have concerns about it.
Yeah, no, we got to talk about the sort of where the different sentiments are coming from and how representative they may or may not be of, like, consensus, I guess, because that in 2026, consensus is a real difficult thing to define, because we're also fractured and we're in our silos and all of that kind of broader societal, those broader societal problems that are destroying everything. I do think, before we get into some of the questions I have and sort of just my take on it, which I think people probably already know, the basics. It's the 3-2-1 system. If you're listening to this, like, odds are you have a grasp on it, but it's the 3-2-1 so-called lottery system. You just jump in if I'm being too non-specific, but basically the bottom 3, the teams with the 3 worst records effectively get the equivalent of 2 ping pong balls, or they have a worse chance of getting a top pick than teams 4 through 10. After that, there's another cutoff for the last couple spots. As you mentioned, there are restrictions on how many times you're allowed to get the number 1 pick. You can't get it in back-to-back years. Can't get top 5. You can't have a top 5 pick for 3 straight years. So that's the Grizzlies example that we just discussed. The pinch point now seems to, or if you're worried about who's going to manipulate the system, now it may come up in the like 9-10 games because there's a pretty significant incentive. Significant. It's like the difference between a 2.7% and a 5.4% chance at number one or top four. I can't even remember whether you tank one of your 9-10 play-in games or get into the 7-8. I'm being vague, but like these are the basics, right? Do you want to put a finer point on any of those things or add anything that I missed in the broader proposal?
I want to correct myself that the pick that Memphis has, it applies to Utah's history, and Memphis is impacted by it. So
Yes,
Utah Jazz have number 2 this year, and I was describing it as the Grizzlies. I was incorrect there, but Utah has number 2 this year, and they had the number 5 pick last year. So that's 2 out of the 3 years because this is being retroactive as of the 2025 draft. If they send, in quote unquote, the 5th pick to Memphis next year, it immediately drops to 6th. And so that was me misspeaking there. I just wanted to correct myself on that one.
Right. So, but anything else to add? I think I've laid it out very
Did you mention
basically.
if I missed it, the second round?
Oh, no. Well, that was a kind of a newer addition in the reporting, right? So basically the second round inverts. I don't know. Do you want to be more specific than that? It flips the order.
Right. So the lottery is now 16 teams, as Grant said. And so if you have the number 1 overall pick, you will now have the number 46 pick in the second round. And if you have the 16th pick, you get number 31, which I think there was a couple, the NBA gave a couple interviews on the about why they did this. And I think it was just to like, it was kind of to recognize that, well, you do have a lower floor as like a bad team could draft as low as number 12. You have like a 25% chance of falling to like 12th or whatever, like is insanity there. So that's like kind of a way to ensure that, all right, well, they're still getting, I'm sure that'll become as a huge consolation if you drop to 12th after having the worst record and then you get the number 31 pick, though. I think that's really going to make a huge difference.
Yeah. Okay. So having laid that out, I'm sure we missed something, but that's the gist of it. The ultimate upshot is it is no longer the optimal strategy to be as bad as you possibly can record-wise with respect to your chances at getting a very high draft pick. And so I like this proposal. It's not a proposal anymore. It's been adopted. I think there are a lot of uncertainties about it. There will be unintended consequences. Teams will figure out other ways to game it. The reason I just zoom all the way out. And well, let me ask you a question because I think this is a threshold issue to all of this. Do you think tanking is a problem in the NBA of the kind that this is meant to address?
Yeah. Yes, because the NBA is an I think what teams are doing under the old lottery system is necessary to get their best chance at acquiring the talent that can get them out of this lottery system. That being said, the product for the fans having to watch some of the games that are in this year, I do think people are conflating this year with other years where it was this draft is insane. And so we saw the shenanigans get worse earlier on. That being said, if one, you're going to tell me that you're trying to watch Grizzlies, Wizards in March and April, I will believe you. And if you want to look at the encore product and not have to like Google the names, I totally empathize with that.
Right. So I think a couple things. One, I think focusing on, or like the idea of like, prove to me that you are ever going to watch Grizzlies or bad team X versus bad team Y in April or March or whatever. I can't claim to, I'm probably not going to watch. I'll say this. I'm more likely to watch 2 bad teams play if I think one of them is going to be fighting for its life to climb out of the bottom 3, for example. Objectively, that's more interesting than 2 teams playing, trying to lose, trying to out-lose each other. I just think I agree. I also think tanking is a problem. I think it's just a question. It's misaligned incentives. It's a competitive endeavor. It's a big deal if broadly, forget individual games or teams or whatever. To me, it's a big deal and it is damaging to the viability of the product if everyone agrees that a huge percentage of the regular season does not matter, or at least, or is being played in a way that is totally at odds with like competitive spirit or whatever else. That strikes me as a pretty foundational problem. And I think the main reason I like lottery reform is it is designed to Can't say it definitely will, but it is designed to and has been thought about a lot by a lot of smart people and then approved by 29 of 30 teams to make it so there is no longer an incentive to win the race to the absolute bottom. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I'm optimistic. I just think that as a basic issue, it's a good thing if you are trying to make it so that teams are disincentivized to be really, really bad on purpose and manipulate a lot of weird things to try to achieve that. That's kind of where it ends for me. And I will say too, if you don't think tanking is a problem, then it logically tracks that you think this lottery reform is bad, right? Like I do think there's maybe room for a disagreement or an argument about whether tanking is a problem. Personally, I'm convinced it's a very big problem and potentially not like, it's not a fatal, it's not going to destroy the league, but it is to me among the biggest. And it was at times this year, the most often discussed and most widely agreed upon problem facing the league, other than the length of the season, which we're never going to do anything about. So we can just table that forever.
Well, but that's one of, it's not my primary concern, but this is selective outrage on the NBA's part, because if you're worried about injuries or increasing the quality of the product, shortening the season isn't on the table, but we'll just rework the foundation upon which every single team is built on a fly, basically. And we're going to have this 3-year contract where it seems we're not going to get into it on this podcast because I think we're going to have someone on to talk about it, and I'd love to dig into it more with the draft credit system. So they're almost saying, we know this is an overcorrection, but it's only for 3 years and we're going to try it anyway.
I disagree. I disagree with that a little bit. I think to me, and I don't know, maybe this is just my general penchant for equivocating and well, it could be this or it could be that, or let's see. I just think I'm never going to criticize a plan that implicit in it is the idea that we're just trying, we're using the information we have to try to make good decisions. And we're open to the idea that this isn't the best route and we're looking to improve it. And so having this credits thing out there with the 3-year sunset to me is that's a good thing. That's not saying we've solved it. That's it. We've done it forever. This is guaranteed to work. It's just an acknowledgement, I think, of yeah, man, we're trying to evolve our thinking based on what happens with our plans and our decisions. I don't know why that's a bad thing, to have this other idea that, hey, maybe we'll try this. I don't know.
Attempting to address tanking to me isn't the bad idea. It's the to me, it feels like they just went from, if the initial change to the system we have now was going, from 0 to 30, this feels like it goes 30 to 110.
The credit thing, you mean?
No, the this model.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Sticking with the one that is now being implemented. And Seth Partnow even had the stat that he did not include this year, but it was over the past 10 years, 70 of the 150 All-NBA spots, and that's been populated among 49 players. So 22 of 49 players were drafted top 4 overall. You are now making it harder for the teams who need that pick, that type of talent the most, to get that talent. Because you can point to, I know there's been some studies done. I was reading a really long Reddit post from Ryan Bernardoni on Blue Sky the other day about how a team's winning percentage, if they had tanked or was lower. And I'm simplifying this because it was a very long piece.
Yeah.
In 1 year, if you fast forward 10 years, there's no material difference in how they're performing. It's tough for me to look at the NBA through those long-term windows when things shift constantly, the draft lottery system being one of them.
Right.
It is still the most likely way for you to get a player who can make you a contender, which is supposed to be the entire point of this thing. I'm not saying every season needs to be championship or bust. There's value in reaching the conference finals. There's value in being a quality team for however many number of years. But the draft is still the most likely way to get the talent necessary to not tank, to not need that type of talent, to be good for a sustainable period of time. You are now making that harder. I would, if you were to say this was done in tandem with other things that made it more likely you could acquire that player via trade or free agency, that's worth a separate discussion. It's not happening via free agency, the way that the markets work now. And by the way, even if it did, there are still teams that would be, I'd say the vast majority of the NBA would be at an inherent disadvantage because the market does matter at that point. I have no sympathy for I own a team in New Orleans and I'm not willing to pay the luxury tax.
Mhm.
That I do not care about. But I'm very open to the fact that even if you were willing to pay the luxury tax, you put Austin Reeves as a free agent this year, can choose between New Orleans or Chicago. Like, who is he picking? Or Atlanta? Like, which one is he? Like, so
Sure.
so the trade stuff too. There was also Jake Fisher had this quote from an exec that said, "I'm not trading any of my picks again until 2029." I do think that's hyperbolic. I don't think this will completely erode the trade market. But what you're looking at is you and I are still trying to figure out, well, how do we value first round picks in trades now?
Right.
It seems like they're less value from some teams, might be more valuable from others, but front offices are having the same discussion. That in some way, I do think, at least for a year, if not longer, will create trepidation on the trade market. And so I need to see proof of how are you supposed to find, and you don't get to point to, well, look where Giannis was drafted. He is just based off the data of what Seth has there, 44% of the all NBA players over the past decade have been drafted in the top 4. So when it comes down to talent retention or building around them, that's a different discussion. But to get the talent that is good enough to view yourself as a team that can be sustainably good or even just a dominant contender, that best mechanism is through the draft. And I think this is, you could say it incentivizes a way for teams to win, but there's a lot of this stuff is beyond their control, where if an injury happens, or so we're just never rebuilding. And the other thing, before I throw it back to you, that I'll just point to is, when you're looking at these games that are being played, do we really think, like, if you're comfortably outside of the relegation zone, do we not think that there's still going to be teams that would rather protect their players long term and might sit them anyway? And the other thing to add to that too is, what if teams now, one, are less likely to make any trades? They're just going to pearl clutch talent because they need to be good, even if that talent is necessary. Like, do the Grizzlies make the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade to the Jazz if they know that this lottery system is coming? Just because now it's not about the return necessarily that they got so much as the incentives are changing when you're actually rebuilding. And finally, the one thing that I like, the league is putting out there, that they have the ability to fine teams $10 million and change their lottery odds, but they also want to say that it wasn't sufficient to just have these intense fines because those are hard to justify. So then why do you have the option now? I think so much of what we're talking about, our issues with tanking or taking in general, probably could have been addressed by put in the $10 million fine and give yourself not just the latitude to enforce it, but I know Adam Silver works for the owners, but like, he needs to have the owners voted for this then. So if they approved it, go and fine these guys. If you think, how many fines do you think Ryan Smith in Utah is a $10 million fine is he going to suffer before he decides it's not worth tanking? So doing that, and then maybe getting rid of some pick protections, I think would have gotten rid of a vast majority of what we're worried about now.
I guess it raises a question for me. I think I agree with the idea that I mean, I don't like getting to say I agree with this feels kind of like pompous, because it does seem like mathematically true that the best way to get the player that you need to become a contender is through the draft. I would cite, like, I think Zach Cram put something out where he focused more on number 1 overall picks, which really is what tanking is for. It's for a chance at number 1. Yes, it's for a high pick, like higher is better, but it's the percentage of number 1 overall picks to like win a playoff series with the team that drafted them over the last 20 years is like vanishingly small. So that cuts a little bit against what Seth Partnow put out there. I saw that as well. I guess I'm not willing to say that, like, well, actually higher picks aren't good like that. I can't get that far. That feels kind of ridiculous.
Aggregators, cut it up, throw it out.
I do. So I would just ask you, because if that's the premise, if we agree that the best way for a bad team to get better is to get a high pick, it seems like it follows logically that I'll just say you, because I'm nominating you as the proxy for everybody that doesn't like lottery reform, would have actually preferred the lottery odds to shift the other way, or to go back to a straight reverse order of record, for example, which would have dramatically, I would say, intensified the incentive to lose and would have made multi-year process style abject tanking more prevalent, right? Like, does it? So I'm not putting words in your mouth, but like, isn't that where the logic leads? Like, if that's what you think, then we should want the exact opposite of what this lottery reform does. And then I think, as you can respond to that, but also I think what that means then is like, we don't care about the knock-on effects of incentivizing a like breakneck race to the bottom, which is just, I think it's discounting those things too much.
I'm rolling my eyes at this comment, not you. From Berserk Monk, how many top 4 picks that have been drafted by the Knicks are currently contributing to this year's run? How many top 4 picks are contributing to OKC and San Antonio? I'm not saying it's impossible, but the Knicks' case, they have a top 10 player who they got for only signing in free agency, who is also, by the way, currently making less than Jalen Suggs. That's not the standard. That's the exception to the rule. And so, to your point, I probably would have preferred, like, if they had to make a dramatic change, I would have gone back to the way of, reverse record order, because I think that then you're ensuring the worst teams. If you wanted to put this, and this gets to the crux of what I'm saying is, I was open for things to be done on the margins. If you wanted to do something like you can't have the top overall pick in consecutive years, or 2 out of 3 years, and done the top 5 like pick stuff, okay, fine. This is just such a, it feels like it's changing the incentives too much to where I even feel as if they get fuzzy. And if you're opening up a scenario where I want to be clear, I don't think a bunch of teams are going to act this way, but we saw it with the Mavericks kind of deciding getting to the play-in. Just they're the one we've seen it with other teams, but they were the example of getting to the play-in didn't mean as much as trying to keep their own draft pick in, what was that, 22? Whatever year that was. There will be teams that I think functionally decide, well, like, we're okay being number 9, like, we would rather be number 9 or 10 because we get a higher chance in the seeding, because we have a higher chance of getting a better pick than if we're 7 or 8. I think that when you look at how big the discrepancies are between the 8 and 1 seeds most of the time, like, I think that's a calculus some teams will make. And even though I don't think it'll be prevalent, people who believe that it's going to happen every single season, I think they're overstating it, that you're opening the door for that is confusing to me. And you're also, but the relegation zone specifically, when you're lowering the odds, what is the punishment? Do you think those teams are there because they deliberately decided to be the 3 worst teams in the league under this system? Or do you think something has happened to where maybe they don't have the talent, or maybe there's been an injury? And so I'm all for them implementing changes. This is just too many, or to me, it's too dramatic. Do you not think if the NBA was genuinely, like, think about the way they used to enforce flopping fines and give out warnings and, like, what are the flagrants or suspensions, whatever it was. If they took that approach to tanking and then had the $10 million stick, plus we can change your lottery odds, why would that not functionally change team behavior? And because right now, I think having that option is even worse, because you're saying, well, the system might not be good enough anyway. And if you're changing the lottery odds stuff, to me, is wild, because, okay, you're having trouble deciding whether you can fine a team 6 figures for tanking. What's the proof that you're going to be able to show that you can manipulate their lottery odds?
Yeah, you're not going to get me to say that I think this loosely, at least as far as what we've seen, defined ability to find teams for certain behaviors is going to have an effect on like, it feels like that is pretty ripe for arbitrary enforcement, like with the Pacers situation this past season as an example. Like, that's not good. I don't think that's going to be an effective way to really do anything, and partly because, like, at the root of it, like you mentioned earlier, with like Ryan Smith might just be willing to eat untold numbers of millions of dollars to just improve his odds, right? Like, it's like money's over here and ping pong balls are over here, and they're 2 different currencies, and you can't exchange one for the other. So, like, find me all you want, I'm trying to do this for this other currency.
Do you actually think that there's no limit to what like we've seen them, the way that they pivot out of luxury taxes?
There's some limit. I just think it's going to be sloppy, and it's not a good setup. The fining, I don't think that the league's ability to fine, how do you it feels messy. It feels imprecise. What was I going to say? I think what ultimately, as we're talking more now, what I'm coming back to is I think maybe I believe that the specific type of tanking that this lottery reform is designed to address is a bigger problem than maybe, now I won't say most people, because I still don't know what the breakdown is on like what the approval rating on the lottery reform is. I don't have a good sense of it. Uh, but I feel like if you, like me, believe that the kind of tanking that this lottery reform will address, it will address the process style tanks. It will address the Jazz and Grizzlies purposely resting guys and losing. If you believe that that kind of tanking is a really big problem, then I think you're okay with this. And that's not to say you are dismissive of or don't believe in the existence of a bunch of collateral damage and a bunch of like, and you have to admit that like some of this is ham-fisted and some of this is overreaching and some of it might, like, there's no guarantees. But I just think if you are narrowly tailoring a solution for a specific problem, this is it. This achieves that. This is that solution. And I like that. And honestly, that's where like 90% of my analysis is over. I just think you got to stop this kind of tanking because I think it's a really big problem. And I do think that this reform accomplishes that. It will create other problems, and those will just have to be addressed when they arise. And I don't know what those are. Does that track for you? Like, you know what I mean? Like if I'm a one issue voter and my issue is you got to stop this kind of tanking, don't you have to be satisfied or at least acknowledge that like this lottery reform will accomplish that single thing?
I think you do, but do you get to ignore the unintended consequences or just even the predictable consequences?
Well, I don't know what's predictable. That is where I think a lot of people that are criticizing it are kind of getting out over their skis a little bit. Like there are some that maybe are a little foreseeable, like someone's going to tank out of a play-in game or something. Yeah, like the incentives are such that maybe that happens. One, who gives a shit? Because it's just, that's a different and smaller scale problem to me. But no, you don't get to ignore the certainty that there will be unintended consequences with this. Well, but I also don't think you should focus solely on those things, partly because like they're unintended and they're like largely unknown. We don't know what teams are going to do.
Well, do you think that there are enough mechanisms for teams to rebuild other than through the draft?
Great question. I think I agree with you that what this does is create an environment where it is harder to climb out of the bottom, right? Like that's a pretty big. I just keep in my brain, I keep seeing DeMontis Sabonis. So let's talk about the Kings. Like you're taking a tool away from them, one that they did not use very often during these many decades of suck. But it's harder for a team like that to climb out. I guess I'm not sympathetic to that. I guess that doesn't move me as much as the thing saying we got to stop teams losing on purpose. Saying it's not an issue.
What's interesting too is, so one of the criticisms that's actually been, I think, lobbed at a bunch of people, but me specifically, is that I'm not thinking about this enough from the fan perspective. And I actually think that's a little unfair, because when you're mentioning how you don't have sympathy, I have zero sympathy for you voted for this. The team, like the ownership, like if front offices have a problem, I get it. Your boss voted for this, so no sympathy for the teams themselves. But it's about the fans. I think that as a fan, I would want my team to have some semblance of hope at the end, or feel like there's definitely going to be something to come good out of this. And don't you think that the results that we've seen in the lottery under this system have been, random's probably not the word, but like curveball, have been enough of a curveball?
That's the thing, is there's never been anything definite. The best you could do was have so what did
the number one overall pick was the best you could do, like in the
but I mean it was always a percentage chance, right? And like you would constantly hear, so like if you had if you were the worst team in the league, you had in the old system a 14% chance at picking number
I think
one.
before that, the previous system was 25, right?
That means you had an 86% chance of not picking number one. Like overwhelmingly, it's always a roll of the dice. It was always like a relatively small percentage chance. Now I know I'm just making arguments about degree as opposed to like, you're absolutely right. I can't argue with you that this new system makes it less likely for the very worst teams to get the kind of talent they need to stop being the very worst teams. I think that's kind of unassailable just because math, right? Mm-hmm. I guess the part of the reason I'm okay with that is, one, I think tanking is just a bigger issue than a team having a run of bad luck or whatever. And two, like, I think it's still it's not so meaningfully different from what the percentages used to be, I think that's part of it too. Like it doesn't really, again, focusing on like the statistical rarity of a number one overall pick winning a playoff series with the team that there's all these, I don't know. I'm not speaking like clearly enough on this issue. I guess I should stop there and just say that it really does in the end still come down to, I think tanking is a big enough problem to just accept some of the other stuff that's going to come with this lottery reform. And if you don't agree with that, like that's fine. We just think
you're an idiot.
Problems here are different.
Grant, you're a dumbass. The only other thing I wanted to ask, the only other thing I wanted to ask, because maybe I'm overthinking this, but like, let's look at the Bulls, a team that this year finished far away enough from the relegation zone, but far enough away from the play-in tournament. When you're looking at, they were 12 losses behind number 10. Mm-hmm. I think that this system overrates, like there are going to be a bunch of teams in kind of a similar situation. I think people are overestimating what those teams might roll out on the floor even later in the season then. Because what is to stop the Bulls from functioning the way that they did this year based on where they, like there's going to be, like I think you could, at least 3 teams, 5 teams every year when you split like 3 teams a conference or 2 teams a conference, like that's still going to be a quarter or a fifth or a sixth of the league. So to your point, I think that this probably it addresses the most egregious form of tanking because you no longer have an incentive to finish with a bottom 3 record. So that's that. I just think, I'm repeating myself now, but I really think it was an overcorrection and there were probably ways to do, like to incentivize. It's not even incentivize. Like my issue is, I don't even think they've done enough to incentivize winning so much as they've incentivized not losing. If that makes sense, is you want to keep your losses within a certain range rather than going.
You're totally right, and that's because that's the closest they could come, I think. You know what I mean? Like the real way to do this is to actually relegate teams. Like then you have the purest incentive, right? They were never going to do that. So this strikes me as, well, don't get into the relegation zone because that's bad. Yeah. Can I posit a theory that, as we've been discussing this and kind of like just seeing the discourse about it, I kind of feel like there is, and maybe you and I are actually an example of this to some degree. I kind of feel like the extent of your negative reaction to lottery reform has a direct relationship to how online you are. And I think that's because if you're super online, it means you're inundated with just negativity and just people saying, I know better, or everything's dumb, and not being nuanced about it, because that's not what happens online. And so that's just what you're exposed to and what forms your opinion. And if you're less online, I think you're more just kind of like, well, it might be this, it might be that. I don't know. Let's see. Like, I don't know. In interactions in my life so far, that has proven to be true. If you're really online, man, you fucking hate this thing. And that's just because if you're really online, everybody fucking hates everything. That's my, does that hold any water for you? You're more online than me, but you're not, so you're trying to tell me
that I'm a dummy and terminally
you've been poisoned. No, it's not your fault, Dan. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's just you're swimming around in social media more than I am, and it's seeped into your pores, and so you're
I'd like to think I'm more measured than the average Twitter
you are,
commenter, but hey,
that's what I'm saying. It's just, look, we're the two variables in the experiment. You're more online than me. You don't like this, therefore science says that that's why.
Well,
I don't do
I
good
see a lot
science
of
all the
people
time.
online that love it, though, is the thing, and that's what
Not
puzzles
me.
me. No, you're not online. Have you
That's
seen
right.
people who hate it online?
I don't see anything.
We do. So before we get into the other stuff we have planned, we do have some breaking news, Grant.
Ooh, let's hit
It's
it.
confirmed that Victor Wembanyama will eventually be joining the Orlando Magic because they are
Okay.
nearing a deal to hire associate coach Sean Sweeney
Okay.
to replace Jamal Mosley. Thoughts?
Cool.
Is this
Yeah,
all
well,
done?
he was
Like they're trying to
he
think
was
a bunch of steps ahead. Get Wemby
what
in there
he
when
kind
hits free
of seemed
agency?
to have rocketed into this guy's getting the next like he's gonna be the next guy, right? I just think that was a fairly long time coming. Interesting that isn't he sort of credited as a defensive guy? Interesting that he
Yeah,
would
what do
be
you
the
think?
pick.
What's the Magic's biggest issue? Is they generate too much offense and they just have a
Right.
ton
They
of
gotta
yeah.
slow it down, play a little more deliberately. No, I'm well deserved, certainly. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see who's going to be on that staff with him. But yeah, I don't know. Again, we like to think we know what first time head coaches are going to do. We don't.
I generally always appreciate first time head coaching hires, even when they come from teams that are trying to be good, because I feel this is maybe not the right way to think about it. It's an oversimplification to be sure, but it's they've thought a little bit outside the box at least.
Right.
They haven't just like look at what good for Jamal Mosley, but like New Orleans said, you know what, we're gonna go from Willie Green was new to the fold when he was there, but we had James Borrego, now we're just gonna go to Jamal Mosley. It didn't feel like it was an outside the box hire, and so
you know what again we love around here, the mystery box. Sean Sweeney's got a little mystery box to him.
Which is why I should like the new draft lottery system, is it not?
It's a huge mystery box that might explode.
Where do we want to go next? I'm gonna let you pick.
I think we should talk about your Knicks. What do you think?
I feel like I agree. I feel like
are they ever gonna not win a game by 30 points again? Just your thoughts. Doesn't seem possible.
Probably not. I think that ends the analysis. Although
we are the New York Knicks. 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 Say go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go. Say go New York, go New York, go.
All these years we've waited. Gallo suffered for this.
Down with the orange and the blue. I'm a Knicks fan. I'm down with the.
I should have noticed that the Gallo jersey was not hanging behind you, and that it's got to be somewhere. There
It's now on my body, and I'm sweating bullets in my office right now because I was wearing a sweatshirt. I was like, how long until we get to the Knicks? I also don't like wearing tank tops either, so this is like really putting myself out there to the millions of people that are going to be watching this.
If not now, when?
This is just like, it's still kind of bizarre considering how much I think collectively you and I doubted this team like post NBA Cup, where it was just some of the stuff. I think I went on the show and just said they don't have it. They clearly just don't have it. And then not only did they reach the finals, which I think relative to the East, you could look at and say, okay, like I always envisioned this. You could point out that they didn't even have to play a number 2 seed, but they absolutely have annihilated the competition. They keep setting every point differential like playoff record. They have the second best road point differential in the playoffs of all time. And just the way that they've even gotten away from it a little bit to where at the Hawks series after game 3, Karl-Anthony Towns goes to Mike Brown and like suggests a change. They implement more Karl-Anthony Towns as a hub, which they're still doing. But then like you go through the Sixers series and then you go into the series against the Cavs. It's like, oh, like Mikal Bridges is doing more. And people having to move the goalposts on whether or not Jalen Brunson is good enough to headline a contender, which that wasn't a Patreon episode, right? That was public where we did the draft. And I said, which teams need, I wrapped up the draft by picking the Knicks. That's
emotional. Been erased from history though. So you can never find that episode.
So, but other people have moved the goalposts to where it was first, he's too small. He's not adaptable enough. And now he's playing off the ball. And I think the defensive issues are a concern, but like are all small guards getting in there and taking charges? So we need pouring out for this team because the dominance is actually been kind of insane. And I think it's not that this is closer to their normal than not, but regardless of who they face, this would be the fan coming out in me. I don't agree with Reggie Miller that they're going to be favored.
No, although that was a wild ass take.
It was amazing that it came from him though, right? Reggie Miller of all people.
Yeah.
They're not going to be favored, but it's not going to be a surprise. I think so many people just assume that we're watching the NBA finals take place in the Western Conference Finals. One, I hope they're wrong, not just because I root for good series, but with the exception of game one in Spurs Thunder, there's been a lot of high level basketball and like, oh, look at these things that are happening here, but we're not dealing with these ultra tight point differentials. And I want more games that are coming down to the wire. So the Knicks are never going to lose again. I'm going to live forever. And I think that's about that's about where we're at.
There are two narratives, I think, that I can imagine arising when the finals get going here. And one is we'll have to, if it goes the way it's been going for the Knicks, which is to say, like the 10-game stat that everybody and their mother has seen by now of this, if you haven't, buckle up. So I'm just going to paraphrase it. But basically, this most recent 10-game stretch for the Knicks has been the single best 10-game stretch any NBA team has ever enjoyed, ever. Playoffs, regular season, friggin' George Mikan playing against plumbers and steel workers, like you name it. This is actually, don't know if that's true. I don't know how far back it goes, but I'm going to stick with it. The best any team has ever played by like just by overall point differential, correct? So if this goes the way the Knicks want it to go, you have to start talking about this team as I don't know how you like what point you would put on it, but the single most dominant team anyone has ever seen in NBA history, at least for a good 2 months, right? Like that, they'll go down as that. Jalen Brunson will immediately become the greatest Knick of all time. Like all the crazy, like hyperbolic, though potentially deserved, to come off this run and then beat whoever comes out of the West would just be like you crown this team, you crown it. There or whoever comes out of the West, say they win game one. Even this narrative will be there immediately if the Knicks lose game one. And it'll be, well, I mean, the Cavs defense wasn't any good. And just like the Hawks weren't a real team. And we'll denigrate and diminish everything the Knicks did and chalk it up to, well, they're playing the first real team they've seen in months. And no, none of this that didn't mean anything, right? The truth will be in the middle, but those are the two ways it's going to go, right? I can just guarantee the chatter about the Knicks are frauds and all this stuff, and all it took was one game against a good team to prove it. I'm not saying I'm endorsing either of those things, but those two storylines are just inevitable, depending on how this goes, correct? There's not a third.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. My problem is I need to see the Knicks do it in the new lottery era, or I'm not going to believe it. Like, is this even real? Right. I think that's the big one. We do. What is fascinating with them? Well, actually, I think we need to talk about the Mitchell Robinson injury. Throws. Yep. They missed OG Anunoby for a while, but relative to like how some of these teams are banged up, they have enjoyed just better health. Mm-hmm. He broke his right pinky finger, which it's on his shooting hand, folks. So he's a dead-eye free throw shooter. Who knows if that's going to impact that at all? He plans to play. He's already had surgery. I don't think we'll do our finals preview. I think on Monday we're going to be doing it. I don't think he hasn't played a ton this postseason, in part because the Knicks have been dominant, but also Karl-Anthony Towns is so good that the way he's been defending, the way he's been playing on offense, you haven't really needed like to go dual big a ton. You haven't faced a matchup even against Cleveland. It wasn't like, oh, we're seeing Mitch Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns play together for 20 minutes a game. Mitchell Robinson hasn't even played 20 minutes in a single game during the playoffs. I think against the Spurs, it'll matter, but the Spurs downsize themselves. And so going to OG on Anunoby at the 5, even if it's Luke Cornett on the floor, if they decide to roll with the Carter Bryant look, not as big of a deal. I know Oklahoma City looks banged up and just ugly right now. We're going to talk about game 7 in that series in a minute, but I think not having him against OKC would, I think, be worse for them. And in general, just losing his offensive rebounding and the stuff that he can do on defense in those second units, because what it is going to force you to do is, I would assume, stagger OG from Cat even more if you don't have Mitch or feel like you can't play Mitch. The minutes Cat, no OG, have been really good, but even if you look, the Knicks have been dominant, but they haven't faced a team like the Spurs or the Thunder yet. And so like those stretches are just going to be different.
Yeah, I think my first reaction was, if he plays, I don't think it's going to matter that much, but at the same time, you kind of don't get to say that when watching the Thunder, and one of the reasons that the series against the Spurs has gone to 7 is because the likes of Jalen Williams and Jared McCain and Alex Caruso and who am I forgetting? Just like these deeper bench guys that combined to win them games. Like so every single like hand on deck matters at this stage of the playoffs. Like if Mitchell Robinson could or could not give you like 6 really good minutes in one game, like that could swing the whole series at this point. Like maybe the margins are that thin, so it's certainly a concern. But again, like you said, oh man, boy, what's his 3-pointer gonna? It's like his shooting is whatever. He's not shooting the ball anyway, except when he's fouled intentionally. Maybe he's batting out rebounds instead of grabbing them. Like it's wild that he's had surgery and like he's gonna play this quickly. But I don't. As long as he's able to be on the floor, I kind of feel like he's gonna do roughly what he would have done without the broken pinky. Don't you think? Like I don't see this like really hampering him.
I honestly don't know how it'll impact rebounding. Like
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not,
mm-hmm.
The other thing would be, does it coax OKC or San Antonio into going Maul and Mitch more often? Because if you think he's a 40% free throw proposition, what is he if he's taped up a finger on it? Does he get better? Are you worried about that happening?
I was gonna like more likely shoots left-handed free throws or shoots granny free throws.
Ooh, him. I feel like he would go granny free throws.
I think you got to go granny. I think there's no question you got to go granny. Just have you ever shot like several grannies in a row? Like Rick Barry used to have like a drive time radio show in the Bay Area where I grew up. And it would be like once a week, he would just rail on some bad NBA free throw shooter because he shot the granny free throw, obviously, and would just say, like, I've offered to coach him. I've offered to come in and just you're going to shoot 90%. Like it's pretty easy to shoot granny free throws if you practice for a little bit. I think Rick Barry has Rick Barry called Mitchell Robinson. Answer probably yes. I think
I have no idea. He should have. Yeah. The other thing I just want to go through with this team is, so I did this exercise where I had to just rank the moves that made that. So they were either signings or free like trades that made the Knicks in order of OMFG. How did that happen? So I came up with 8. Are you ready to go through them with me?
Please, I would love to.
So checking in at number 8 is the Brooklyn Nets sell high on Mikal Bridges. The Knicks gave up control of 6 first-rounders and 1 second. I think until 3 weeks ago, most people thought that trade was a resounding failure.
Well, and then wait 3 more weeks and it's been how often has this been discussed?
Now, one of the things that I can't pretend to have been ahead on the Jalen Brunson stuff is the Knicks gave up so many picks for a few reasons. One, they didn't send out Bojan Bogdanovic was the most recognizable name, or Shake Milton, that they sent out in that trade. So you had to compensate the Nets for that. Also, you were a 50-win team at the time of the trade. So you're getting a core player without giving up any consequential names. That dilutes the value of your first rounders. That combined with now Mikal Bridges had 2 more years left on a deal that pays him less than 17% of the salary cap, which between him and Jalen Brunson, you don't navigate the Towns trade, the paying OG Anunoby, not having to enter the second apron just yet without doing that. All of those things, I think, coalesced into this is why the Knicks gave up so much. It was still too much, in my opinion. But when you start to look back at it, so Grant, 3 of the 7 draft picks that were in there already conveyed. So the 2 first-rounders from last year turned into... where they have that in my notes? Did I already lose at who they turned into? They turned into Ben Suraf, Nolan Traore, and Adu Tiero. That's, as of right now, none of those looks like they're going to be.
That's a big zero so far.
Now, there are out years, but hey, we're Knicks are in the finals maxing over here. So that's my number 8. Number 7, a trade that I actually lampooned. The Portland Trailblazers show New York the power of friendship via the Josh Hart trade. I criticized the Knicks. They gave up Cam Reddish, Ryan Arcidiacono, and Ante Tomic for Josh Hart. And a 2023 first-round pick. I was focused on the pick. In my defense, to undermine my own defense, that pick turned into Chris Murray. So it was number 23. Look at what Josh Hart has just done for them now, even with the shooting concerns.
Yep.
Checking at number 6. I don't think this gets enough credit, but you can't put it higher because he hadn't had an NBA sample yet. But on draft night in 2021, the Thunder shipped out the number 34 and number 36 picks so that they could move up to number 32. They selected Jeremiah Robinson Earl. New York used number 34 on Rokas Jokubaitis, mispronouncing that, I'm sure, who has never come stateside. And then at 36, they drafted Deuce McBride, who is currently in the second year of a 3-year, $12 million contract that has turned into one of the league's sweetheart packs.
Yep.
Just like that's one of the ones where it's, oh, okay, like that's a big deal. He's what, the 6th or 7th best guy on this, or 8th, depending on how you feel about Mitch and a player to be named. Number 5, Landry Shamet falling through the cracks of half the league. He was on Philly, I think made all rookie with Philly, right? Or made all rookie as rookies. He was traded to the Clippers in the middle of an all rookie season. Was on the Clippers, the Nets, the Suns, and most recently the Wizards before the Knicks, who waived him. He was injured. I didn't see any of these teams and their fans be like, oh, we lost out on Landry Shamet. But the Knicks had him last year. He entered this year on a training camp deal. And a lot of people thought, because the Knicks only had one room for one veteran, they were going to sign Malcolm Brogdon instead of Landry Shamet. Malcolm Brogdon retired. They were able to sign Landry Shamet. They could have dumped salary to sign Landry Shamet, but there's no guarantee they would have done that. Look at what this dude, they don't win game 1 against the Cavs. With like the analysis can end there. There's a whole bunch of it, what he's done. They don't win game 1 against the Cavs without Landry Shamet. On a minimum, by the way. And now they have his early bird rights because no one else in the league intervened. Well, the Knicks are sitting on their asses waiting to see if they were even going to sign him.
What's 5? Is that 6 or 5?
That's 5.
Good
so
Lord.
4, the Sacramento Kings just going full Kangs on Mike Brown. During Mike Brown's only 2 full seasons at the helm of the Kings, he gave them an offensive style that became league pass pornography. He guided them to their first playoff berth since 2006 and steered them to their first 45 or more victories in consecutive years for the first time since 2005. So, of course, after he started 13 and 18 in 24-25, they fired him. That makes sense. They were 5 games under 500, and since then, they're now like 46 wins under 5. They're 40 and 84 since firing Mike Brown. So they're 5 games under 500 to 44 games under 500. The move made 0 sense at the time, and it was also just the way it kind of fell on De'Aaron Fox, or it came out that he told them, I didn't want to play for my 5th coach in less than 8 years, so they made him play for his 5th coach in less than 8 years, and now he's on the Spurs, potentially about to be in the NBA Finals. Could you have ranked this higher?
I mean,
than 4.
Listen, first of all, I'm not going to sit here and listen to you bully the Sacramento Kings, who they just haven't caught a break is all. It's got nothing to do with the fact that in addition to Mike Brown, they were responsible for giving another conference finalist last year their best player, and the current conference finalist, like the guy they really need to dribble the basketball sometimes against a good defense. And, you know, like, if I don't know, I'm just cribbing from, I don't know if it was, I can't remember who put this out there, but it was like, it also included Michael Malone getting the Nuggets to a championship, like not that long after the Kings. It's just like, if you had a huge run of success in the NBA, there's a great chance the Kings screwed up and gave you one of the reasons that you were successful. So it could rank higher, yes, to answer your question, because, well, I don't know what the ones that beat it out are, but like the Mike Brown move was the move from last year to this year. And I was on the record over and over of like, I don't know if this is better, but it's different, and that justifies it. Guess what? It's better. They've advanced farther than they did last year, therefore rousing success. They didn't really change anything else. And if you want to talk about which you did, the town, the rebirth, the emergence, whatever it is, of like this version of Karl Anthony Towns, tactical genius and the hub of an offense. Mike Brown said yes to that, or came up with it. You know what I mean? Like they're not here without that change. Probably they certainly aren't the greatest 10-game team of all time without it.
And I would agree with everything you said, but the fact that they went and asked about literally every other head coach that was employed under the sun made me say, I'm just going to demerit the ranking a little bit, because it's not like they went into this saying we're getting rid of Tom Thibodeau for Mike Brown.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is praising the result over the process, but we get to do that sometimes.
Checking in at number 3. So we're getting up there. Can you believe it's the Karl Anthony Towns trade,
Is it the
or as I like to call it, the Timberwolves deciding to get into the Julius Randle business.
Not a good business to be in, comparatively speaking, at this point.
No, and look, congratulations to Timberwolves ownership for paying Randall DiVincenzo and Johan Berenger, which is what that first round pick the Knicks gave up, turned into a combined $10 million less than Town made this season. That's big time. Look, this trade, I think both of us have gone, we hated it in the moment for the Timberwolves. There have been moments where we've gone back and forth on it. Julius Randle just shot under 40% from 2 in the conference semifinals, under 20% from 3. Couldn't pick up the slack for Anthony Edwards. Of course, Dante DiVincenzo goes out, so you can't necessarily penalize the Wolves for that. Towns, meanwhile, has become a playmaking hub, the likes of which he never was in Minnesota. And what they did by getting Gobert, they decided, well, he can't be a center. And the Knicks have shown they don't have a transcendent defensive player of the year center alongside him. And the defense has been just fine. They're proving that you have to surround him with other pieces. So let's not Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, these rangy wings. But Jalen Brunson's also your point guard. And aside from just taking charges and generally trying, he's not going to give you much defensively. So the trade does not look so hot. And Karl Anthony Towns is expensive, but we've kind of reached the point where the Knicks could bow out in the finals and you can't declare that trade anything other than a win for New York.
Verdict's in. Like, you made the finals with this. That's it worked.
Checking in at number 2. This was weird to go back on, but the OG Anunoby trade. So the Knicks traded for OG Anunoby and Precious Achiuwa by sending RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Malachi Flynn, and a second-round pick that became Jonathan Mobo to Toronto. People were a fan of this trade in real time, but there were also a lot of people, I don't know if you remember, who thought when factoring in OG's injury history and his next contract that Emmanuel Quickley was going to be the most valuable asset coming out of that deal. That's kind of hysterical now when you look at OG's been basically a third option for them for a lot of this season, before his hamstring injury in the playoffs, certainly, and just an all defense guy. And I think what's even makes it look even worse / better, makes it look better for the Knicks. What did the Raptors think about how many ways the Raptors erred here? They waited too long to trade OG. He was months away from his declining his player option. Why did you wait that long? Then you prioritize players over teams that might have been offering more picks. And maybe that was a symptom of your first error, but you don't get to play we were trying to rebuild from the middle card when you traded Pascal Siakam less than a month later. And then what's even kind of just, yes, we're years removed. Masai Ujiri's not running the front office anymore. Bobby Webster was there, but you were worried about paying OG Anunoby an average of 26% of the salary cap so that you could give up a first-round pick for the right to pay Brandon Ingram 24% of the salary cap.
That's a rough two-step.
Yeah. Finally, number 1, they drafted Mitchell Robinson. No, the Jalen Brunson thing is just insane. The stories have popped up again because the Knicks are in the finals, but this was fairly new from Fred Katz of The Athletic. In addition to Jalen Brunson and Rick Brunson have said this, I think Mark Cuban's refuted it. The Brunsons apparently said they would sign the 4-year, $55 million deal twice, and the Mavs passed. Then the Mavs, this is per Fred Katz, were having trade negotiations with the Knicks at the 22 trade deadline for Jalen Brunson. They were pushing for at least one of their own first rounders back that the Knicks owned because they didn't think that Leon Rose and crew would have the ability to chisel out cap space to go and get Brunson. So just as they overplayed their hand in extension talks with Brunson, they overplayed those hands in those talks. They fizzled. Jalen Brunson, the Knicks carve out cap space. He leaves for a 4-year, $104 million contract that became one of the offseason's best bargains. Now, clarifier here. I was against the move in the steps that the Knicks took to get Brunson. I didn't think he was going to be a top 10 player. I thought this was them fast-tracking their way towards the middle. I was wrong that we posted a short on it. We still get comments about how idiotic I was. I love it. That's the type of stuff I love being wrong about. But then, Grant, he signs last year a 4-year, $156.5 million extension that when it kicks in next season, when he will be a consensus top 10 player, and probably has been for a couple seasons, he will barely rank in the top 50 of salaries. And as he goes into the finals, he made less than Jalen Suggs this year. That's like highway robbery, like to an obscene degree.
It's just as simple as you have the best player on a team in the finals that is not making the max. And is like not only not making the max, but is not close, right? Like that. I don't know. I guess people might quibble with the order of some of those other moves, but there's no other candidate that's in remote contention for number one. It's like, because the Brunson of it all is very much tied to Hart and to Bridges and to just the whole deal of like, I don't think you get a lot of these other beneficial situations without Brunson there first. So yeah, I mean, look, I guess the upshot is that it takes to build a team like that's this good. There's always a mixture of someone else makes mistakes, like, right? Like you're benefiting off of somebody else's screw up. It takes some luck. It takes like balls to say we will pay this for Mikal Bridges and to say we will pay OG what we know we're going to have to pay him. Like it just takes everything. I don't know. It always happens at this time of year where it's like building a team that's good enough to make the finals is so hard that it's like the stars really do have to align and you're only in charge of so much of it. And that's to take nothing away from the Knicks. Cause they like, look, they are where they are. And therefore basically all of their decisions worked, they deserve credit, but there's just a constellation of things have to happen for you to get this far. Pretty amazing though. And that's not even going back. I wonder how far you could go back to like really find the seeds of what got to
them deciding to sign Julius Randle, which sets them up to make like the Carnathy Towns trade later on.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, how far down to the what's the like the ripples? How far can you follow the ripples? Pretty far.
We should talk about. There's going to be a Game 7 that's happening between OKC and San Antonio. Okay. What are your just overarching thoughts heading into that game? And just from this series overall at this point,
man. So we were asked to do like a little mini preview for Bleacher Report, and I was or predictions really, and like the only like predictions I felt comfortable making were jokes basically because I just like Isaiah Hartenstein. If you run the whole offense through Isaiah Hartenstein push shots, you'll never miss a shot and you'll win. So the Thunder should do that, or like De'Aaron Fox will never get all the way to the basket. That like okay, that's my other so. As far as like who has the advantage, I think you probably just have to say the Thunder because they're at home. They've been here before. It seems to take otherworldly Wembanyama efforts plus really good 3-point shooting for the Spurs to win. Not saying that can't happen. It's happened more than once in this series. I don't know. Like at this point, I guess we could get into matchups or tactical things or like how to get Wembanyama the ball close to the basket, which seems like impossible now after it really worked all the time early in the series and earlier in the playoffs. There's a lot of wrinkles, but we've kind of seen both teams try what they want to try and run into counters. And just this has sort of devolved to where series get a lot of the time, which is if the Thunder don't make threes, they're probably not going to win. And if the Spurs don't make threes, they're probably not going to win. But we can dig a little deeper. I don't know. Those are my broad thoughts. It's just to say like, and then I guess the last thing before I throw it to you is my head says Thunder. My heart, it's been this way from the beginning is I want the Spurs to win because that is a more interesting outcome to me because it creates an environment where it's just the final. So it's not like they've won a title yet, but it sets up a dynamic that I think in my like the infancy of my basketball fandom, like I attached myself to, which was Michael Jordan being a mythical figure and unbeatable. And the whole league has to figure out how to beat this person. And I use the term person loosely because like to me at the time, Michael Jordan was like a god. It was just like, he can't lose. He's special. I like the idea of Wembanyama setting himself up to feel like that kind of player where it's like, you're telling me in his third year, he just knocked off one of the best teams we've seen in decades. What do we do with this guy? Like, I like that dynamic for the league. I get it if that's not your cup of tea. In fact, like, I think a lot of people don't want that. They don't want this like unbeatable figure that you can't crack, but I do. So that's what I'm rooting for.
I think what's interesting is I think most people probably fall in your camp because the Thunder theme seems so hated. I do think how we got disappointed, not mad. How much of a super chat for Dan to dump him tarps off? I don't think I understand.
What are we dumping? Are we talking pecs? Are we dumping your pecs out?
Oh,
is that what that
this
means?
is my shirt? I didn't understand what that meant.
look, I don't know. That's what I'm taking from it.
Yeah, that'll be behind the paywall for sure. What was my thought? Oh, I think the Spurs, just based off, remember what Devin Vassell did to Chet Holmgren in Game 6, where I think he called him a B. Like even some of the stuff Steph Castle has done, the way the Spurs carry themselves, I want to make it clear, I love it. There's like tinges of, remember when the Grizzlies were up and coming, or when the Thunder were still likable? People are going to hate the Spurs very soon.
Oh yeah,
is what's become
it's inevitable. If you have success, you're going to be hate. Like that's just what it is.
But I think the Thunder have become like so disliked. Most people want to see the Spurs. There's also the through line of we've had 7 consecutive different champions, and if the Spurs win, now you're going to have 8, like guaranteed to have 8, whether it's the Spurs or the Knicks winning, which is kind of bonkers. It's also, I know people will view this is too far afield for the. I'll save it for like when we do our lessons from the playoffs. I just think people overrate. Like, we thought the Thunder were going to run the league for however many years, and then Wemby came along. There's always something, whether it's an injury, a team that formed, or a talent that comes along. So I think what you're saying is compelling. I don't know that I've wrapped my head around the idea. I have the Thunder in Game 7 as well. I don't feel the least bit. I should. They're home. OKC fans are insane. Like, I think they've shot 40% from 3 at home in this series versus like sub 30% on the road or whatever it is.
Right.
So you should care. The one thing I wanted to ask you, just looking into adjustments, like, should OKC change its starting lineup now and get Dort out of there? I was looking at the numbers. So when Holmgren, Hartenstein, and Dort were on the floor together with Wemby in Game 6, the Thunder were outscored by 11 points in under 7 minutes. That's a negative 76.9 net rating. So I looked at it, what it is for the series with those 3 players on, while Victor Wembanyama is also on. 37 minutes, the Thunder have been outscored by 44.5 points per 100 possessions and 39 points in total. So by more than a point per minute. I tend to like Lou Dort more. I've just appreciated the workload that he's shouldered for OKC for so long. But I think at this point, when J-Dub clearly isn't J-Dub, Alex Caruso said it after the game, that he blamed himself and the Thunder for not putting him in more second side creation situations. I don't know that Jalen Williams has that in. I appreciate that he's out there at all, dealing with all this hamstring stuff. You don't have AJ Mitchell. Jared McCain is the only ball handler. I might even put him above Shea in the sense of Shea clocks Wemby, but you have to put him there. But like Jared McCain just doesn't care.
Right.
Like,
no, he's almost looking for him sometimes. It feels like he's like, let's try.
So like, I think that you need to probably then just increase your floor spacing as much as possible. And that's a case, or is it just going with vibes where it's Alex Caruso's had bigger games? Even Casey Wallace was arguably OKC's best player for a lot of Game 6.
I think that checks out, mainly because if you're not going to have Dort guarding Wemby, which was, it feels like 1,000 years ago, but they did try that a fair amount in Game 1, right? And earlier in the series, or at least that was a thought. If he can't do that job, and I don't think that he can, it's just like, this isn't great analysis, but like the height difference is just too, like Wembanyama doesn't see him. He feels him down there somewhere, but I don't think Dort can impact the game defensively against the Spurs to the degree that he can against most other teams. Cause like Hartenstein is doing fine. He's not playing quite as much. I was surprised how little he played after that early stint in Game 6. Hartenstein's and Jay Will is the other guy that seems to be spending a lot of time on Wemby. So if Dort's not doing that, then, and if your success or failure seems to be tied very closely to your 3-point shooting and therefore your spacing, then yeah, I think make it up Wallace's minutes. You better play Caruso more. There's no tomorrow if you don't. So I think this should be a game where I don't think they'll start him. I think that should be a conversation. I just because in addition to the defense and the shooting and all the other stuff, like Caruso really can actually get where he wants off the dribble, like surprisingly well against the Spurs. Like he is a fairly reliable ball handler, even if like part of the reason he took so long to catch on is that he's not like a true point guard. But I would trust him as much as McCain to be like your secondary dribbler if Shea is just being hounded to where that can't work. So yeah, I think that's an adjustment. I think what else we need to try? I mean, like, what do you think about the Thunder? I mean,
can I ask you a follow-up on what you were just commenting on? Is there any concern? So if you started Caruso, if you just said we're gonna play, like I know you're in the conference finals, but Caruso's averaging 24 plus minutes per game this series. That's a lot for Alex Caruso.
Yeah.
Would there be value in doing something getting really weird? And this, I know he hasn't shot well this series, but saying, well, like Isaiah Joe is just gonna start, and we're really gonna try and use, and then we'll put in Alex Caruso. I guess you can't phase out Lou Dort entirely, so that's where that would fall apart. It would be start Case and Wallace, who can handle the heavier workload, and then keep Caruso kind of in his role right now.
I mean, to me, if it's between let's see if Caruso can play 34 minutes or let's try Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins or whatever else, like I know what Caruso can do, and the reason you play him so little is, I mean, partly because like maybe he wears down over the course of the game, but you're trying to keep him healthy for the long run. There is no long run anymore. You just have to, like, if he plays 34 minutes and gets hurt and can't play in the finals, I'm still calling that a win just because he got you there. So I don't think you can think preservatively that's done now. So I wouldn't go deeper into the rotation. I would lean harder on the guys that I know are good, that I'm not sure can hold up physically, as a result. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather just have the best players. Controversial. I would like to play the best players more if I'm the Thunder.
Honestly, you might need to bench Shea. He's just not making shots. What are you supposed to do?
Do you like what if you're the Thunder and the Spurs can't shut the water off forever, but they've been like shockingly effective at least especially in game 6, like, and at times throughout this series, making it very hard for Shea to get clean looks. Like he did score in game 6, but I mean, I was like tracking just how many impossible contested, self-created, under duress shots he had to take and make to put up the night that wasn't even nearly good enough to keep the Thunder in the game. Like, what do you see the Thunder trying to do to change the dynamics there? Is there anything they can do? Is it a personnel issue where, like, if J-Dub's not there, there's just not enough of a penalty for selling out to the way the Spurs are to stop Shea? Like, what do you do?
I think that's the one is, can you put a line or hope because you're going to be home that you are going to make them pay for just overloading on Shea? Because wouldn't the other solution be, and you don't want to do this to an absurd level, but can you get the ball out of Shea's hands at all just to make his job a little bit easier and put the Spurs in rotation at any point that way? And if you don't have Mitchell, if you don't have J-Dub at full strength J-Dub levels, is it Alex Caruso? Is it Jared McCain who's best suited to do that? And like the thing about Caruso has more of this, but what you really appreciate with Jared McCain, and again, it's not like it's worked this series, but there's like a directionality and jiggle joggle to his handle that Case and Wallace just doesn't have. Caruso can like navigate traffic, but it's not break down guys. It's more like I can't stop moving while I'm doing it. There can be changes of cadence for Jared McCain. That's a weirdly uncomfortable spot to, like, don't they almost feel beholden to they need a big Jared McCain game in game 7 of the conference finals, which we trolled Daryl Morey and Josh Harris for what happened with that trade, but that's like an insane spot to be in.
I mean, what we're dancing around here is like, yet again, injuries are defining a series because we're not having this conversation if Mitchell and J-Dub are both healthy, and those are your second and third creators. Like, that's, talk about a luxury, right? Like but here we are. So McCain has to play great. Well, there are other ways, obviously, right? Like Jay Will could hit 6 threes. Caruso could hit, like that's the other way that the Thunder could force. Even then, I mean, this is a fascinating dynamic because, like, if those dudes heat up, are the Spurs gonna deviate from the Shea? We're not letting Shea get clean looks. We're gonna face guard some tertiary scorer and free up space for Shea. Like, I don't know. I don't think you do that. I think you just, if you get beat because somebody has a Grant Williams game or like an Alex Caruso game earlier in the series, then you probably live with that. But I don't know what the Thunder can do to force the Spurs to defend differently. It's right, like, especially with the dearth of like guys that can beat their man off the dribble. It's Shea and it's McCain. This is another thing because all I'm landing on is like, I don't know what the Thunder do. That's great analysis. How has your estimation of Chet Holmgren changed at all during this series?
I was about to bring him up. It's definitely changed. I mean, the Wemby of it all like makes it tough, but like to get daddied by Devin Vassell a little bit, just feeling like the lack of physicality, the lack of aggression on the offensive end. I don't know. Could they do something to, like, where do you want Chet to get the ball? Because right now he just sort of feels like he's like a floor spacing defender. And it's when your team is not necessarily playing its best on defense night in, night out, and you're shooting 27.3% on just 2 attempts per game from 3 for the series, you're not really checking any of those boxes. Certainly on offense, like, he is not even in the top 7 of like Thunder 3-point attempts per game. Like, Kenrich Williams is averaging more 3-point attempts per game. Now he's played in fewer games of the series. That's sort of an issue. And I understand that there's like the Wemby of it all, but he feels offensively specifically like he's just not even there for so many stretches. And is there, in your estimation, is there something OKC can do to put him in better spots? Or is an indictment of Chet that wasn't part of the appeal? Yeah, he was never going to be this physical bruising big, but well, Chet has a floor game, and it's not just you need to get him down low or on the move. Like, he should be able to attack, especially if they're going to load up on Shea. Is like, I honestly don't know how it's changed a little bit, because it feels like he hasn't even been one of the 2 best big men in this series.
Right. So yeah, he's kind of getting, he's going through it right now, I think, in terms of public perception, and some of it's fair, some of it's like, well, what do you want him to do? He's playing against,
part of it's the haircut. Like, there's
part of it's the haircut for sure. Part of it, he's still what was the AT&T commercial? Was it AT? It doesn't matter. I think what it's revealing to me is and he's young enough to where you don't want to say like, it's telling me what kind of player he's going to be. What this is revealing is the type of player he is, which is to say, he's not well equipped to punish being left with high volume 3-point shooting. Either he doesn't want to do it, or he can't. I don't know what it is. And the other thing, you mentioned it, like, he's got a size advantage. Either he's getting helped off of on the perimeter, or he's being guarded by someone that you would like to think he would have an advantage against near the basket. So do the Thunder have him duck in more? Do they? Maybe not, because Wemby's always lurking at certain lineups. Like, you would think he would have some kind of physical advantage due to his skill for his size. It hasn't manifested. So it makes me think, like, I think it's maybe a little, some of it's the Spurs, because they have length in Wemby, and they have, at least in Castle, and this version of Vassell, which I never thought Vassell was going to defend this way. And Harper, ball hawks everywhere, where if you're a big and you put it on the floor and you're not like super great handle wise or ball security wise, which Chet is not, they're going to dig in there and they're going to make it difficult for you to get from A to B. So like, it's a matchup thing, but my estimation of him has shrunk a little. It has declined a little bit, because he hasn't had a game yet where he's just tried to force it, which might be a credit, but it also kind of is the type of thing where, oh, I was hoping that, you're an all NBA player. Like, yeah, some of that's defense, which also he hasn't been like, he's had his moments, but hasn't been great defensively, but offensively has not been a factor. You would like to see, I'm disappointed, I guess, but while acknowledging that the matchup is brutal, you can't just say that he's failing. It's like, no, those other guys on the other team have kind of something to do with that.
And what's actually interesting too is that the Spurs, as a team, are shooting, when Holmgren's on the floor with Wemby on the floor, they're shooting 75% at the rim. Only 8 attempts though, so it's not a ton of frequency. Yeah. That was game 6. So yeah, you're just not feeling him as defensively. The other thing, I'm just not sensing him as much as you should be, which feels like an oversimplification, and we're diluting it down. Mm-hmm. But I would echo everything you said. The only other note I have is just, I know they won the minutes in game 6, but I might explore cutting the Luke Cornett minutes in game 7, depending on how it goes, and unleash the Carter Bryant, because do you know, and maybe I'm wrong, I'd have to go back and look, the Spurs played Shea the most straight up I've seen them basically play him all series during that end of like second quarter stretch when Carter Bryant was on him. And it was just like, no, like Carter Bryant. And the fact that as a rookie, that's just what you're able to do. Even it was for a handful of possessions. I'm not saying that he needs to play. The offense gets compromised if he's not hitting threes. He had that dunk too. He also has he's really got a baby face. I don't even remember how old he is, but he's still got, like, you could tell that he's super young. For him to like just do what he does, and some of the screen navigation, and just to be on Shea and make things even like straight up. Again, it was like 2 or 3 possessions to close the half. I'm just wondering if that's something they should explore, because in theory, if you're going up against those, by the way, it's curtains if you can't win as OKC the non-Wemby minutes. That's just going that needs to be a given.
Which was the story of Game 6, that third quarter where it was just like, oh my God, this is happening without Wemby. Yeah.
Nuts.
Bryant's really interesting. Like he, athletically and effort wise, he's an A+. Like that dude is whatever the top tier is of play hard and has like physical tools that he's just unbelievable. He is even at this stage, like, I think he's the kind of defender and like disruptor that especially, and also shoots the three like with way more confidence than he has a right to. If Carter Bryant is open, he's like licking his chops out for shots that Chet Holmgren is passing up. Like that's like, whoa, where are we? So that's to say he can change 5-minute stretches of a game by himself, which is nuts for a rookie. I also think like if he's on Shea in Game 7, the most likely outcome is 3 fouls in 45 seconds. Like I can also see the downside of Carter Bryant. He does rookie stuff. He does babyface rookie stuff a lot. So you said unleash him. I'm for it. Also short leash. Like you can't, I think you need to, and you led this with reduce Luke Cornett's minutes. Could not agree more. I constantly am thinking throughout this series, like, God, like this, he can't move. And it's just such part of it is you're comparing it to what it looks like with Wemby out there, which is unfair. But yeah, I would give Carter Bryant like a real shot to play more, but I would also be very, very quick to just take him out of the game if because he's had stretches in the series too where it's like, oh my God, like he's not ready for this. So I think you got to be real selective and real ready to call it and just hope Cornette doesn't hurt you too much as the Spurs in Game 7.
Anything else on what you're looking at? What do you find it? You already said you find Spurs Knicks to be the more compelling matchup. Might be the healthier one. I know De'Aaron Fox is playing banged up, but Dylan Harper, I don't know how much we mentioned him. He looked pretty good.
He looked better
Game
finally
6 after rough for a couple games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those young ligaments heal quickly.
Yeah. Whatever it is, the adductor / that everybody still thinks is a hamstring. I don't know. I'm in the bag like big time, like to a degree. I can't remember the last guy was more in the
hold on. Just to come full circle here, do you realize that Dylan Harper would not be on the Spurs if the previous lottery system existed?
Well, let's see. So yeah, the Spurs would not right because of the 3 top 5s in a row, right?
They could have gotten Wemby. They could have gotten Castle. They could not have gotten Dylan Harper.
I take back everything I said. This new lottery system is terrible.
That'll do it. I think that's a good spot to end, is me just emerging victorious.
Yeah, I'm easy. Whatever gets you Dylan Harper, that system's good. And we should use it forever.
I don't know why more teams just don't get themselves a Dylan or a Wemby for that matter.
Right. How hard is it? If he's here's some like first take analysis. If he's the Spurs' second best player, they're gonna win. They're going to win Game 7 because that dude, when he's on, is just like, oh, that's a superstar. Just, I don't care how old he is. He has it, man.
Do you know what's a scary, just assuming we give Shea a benefit of the doubt, cachet. If you have Wemby and you have Shea, you rank all the other players in the series. How long does it take before we get to the second best Thunder player who's in front of them?
Oh man. Okay.
It probably has to be Caruso, right? But who is in front of?
I mean, Hartenstein's got a case, but it's probably Caruso. Talking healthy guys, right? So no J-Dub, no Mitchell, or are you including J-Dub?
Do you think that J-Dub has been the second best Thunder player in this series?
I mean, like right now in the moment, no, certainly not.
Not overall. No, overall, it's like the thing that we do, like this is the whole thing with, I'm not going to say that Jokic isn't one of the 2 best players alive. Like he's earned he's been it for so long that let's go into next season when he's not coming off a knee injury and we'll see if he can resume it. So I'm not going to knock off J-Dub just because he's dealt with so many injuries.
Right. Yeah. But at the moment, no, I don't know where you go after Shea for the Thunder, that's the other thing is they're here still playing because dudes 7, 8, and 9 in the rotation have had moments good enough to help Shea get him there, right? Like that's this.
Depth,
That is
another
the
lesson in the
Spurs
playoffs.
big time. The Spurs don't really like even like Keldon Johnson. I'm just like, I don't love it. He's just gonna run into somebody and hope for the best. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I think a Thunder win in Game 7. I mean, Shea is Shea, but like it will almost definitely have to have something to do with their depth advantage. And I've outlined what that looks like. Jay Will gets hot, or Caruso gets hot, or whatever. Like, that's just, I don't know how the Thunder win, because I guess what I'm saying is I'm discounting J-Dub or Chet playing really, really well, which maybe is a mistake, but we've seen what we've seen so far.
Are you ready to move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers offseason look ahead? This is actually not the first one we've done live. We went live after the Sixers fired Daryl Morey, but this is our second look ahead that goes live. The Cavs got eliminated in the conference finals, and now they enter what is a pivotal offseason, I would say, despite them being wildly expensive. Do you, as always, do you want to take us through their offseason vitals, sir?
I would love to. So they are about let's just say about 6 million, because the number is actually 5.9 above the second apron. That puts them 18.5 million over the first, 29.6 million over the tax. That includes 14 players. James Harden has a player option. Craig Porter Jr. has a team option. Keon Ellis's cap hold and the number 29 pick hold are rolled into that. They do not have the MLE. They can get the 6.1 mini MLE, so-called, if they duck the second apron. Given the numbers we just laid out, possible, not necessarily easy. They have a $6.9 million traded player exception for DeAndre Hunter, $10 million Lonzo Ball. Remember him? Remember what we thought Lonzo Ball was going to do for this team?
Oh,
Traded player exception. Boy, that's it. Don't roll the tape back on that one. I was pretty in the bag for that. Notable free agents. Keon Ellis is unrestricted. Cavs have full bird rights on him. Ditto for Dean Wade. Thomas Bryant, they have his non-bird rights. Larry Nance Jr. also non-bird there. We mentioned James Harden's player option. Olivier Sarr has non-bird rights. Team option on Craig Porter Jr. As well. Extension candidates, this will be relevant. I think this is kind of a threshold issue for the Cavs, although I don't know, maybe we've disagreed about this a little bit, or some of the mechanics of it. Donovan Mitchell can sign a 4-year, $273 million max. That would kick in for the 27-28 season, which is his age 31 season. Keon Ellis, also extension eligible. He can get 3 years and 52.4. Dean Wade, 4 years, 87. Max Strus, after the finals, 4 years, 104.5 million. That would also kick in for his age 31 season, just like Mitchell, 27-28. Craig Porter Jr. can sign for 4 years, 92.8 would be his max. Probably not going to come up. First round pick overview. On. Go ahead.
Let's have a discussion.
Make the Craig Porter case real quick. No, go ahead.
They were too reliant on Dennis Schroeder, so you might as well max out Craig Porter Jr. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Preserve the asset, right? Somebody's going to want him at just 18 million, whatever it is. That's probably terrible math. It's over 20. They do not control their own first round pick until 2030. 2027, going to Memphis, Phoenix, or Utah. 28, they get the least favorable of their own, Atlanta or Utah. 2029 is going to Charlotte or Utah. 2033 is frozen. That's because of the second apron. They can trade 2 firsts this summer, which is number 29 on draft night, and either 2031 or 2032. Highest paid players in 26-27. Donovan Mitchell made 50.1. Evan Mobley made 50.1. James Harden, 42.3. Jared Allen, 28 million. Max Strus, 16.7 million. All right. The Cavs are among the most restricted, hamstrung, financially crippled operations out there. Will they stay that way? I think that's maybe the place to start here. Is ducking the second apron a priority? How do they do it? Should they do it? Must they do it? So on and so forth.
I kind of feel, I think a lot of people might think this is related to what they do with James Harden, but in terms of maybe what he signs for his next deal, if they want to lower the player option number, I think it has more to do with, my answer is they will not be in the second apron again. And the discussion is the second ARPN, as it says on screen. Grant, I don't know if you could, we've changed it. My question is, who are they dumping? That's what I'm looking at, is what's the contract they're trying to dump to get out of the second apron? Because I don't think they'll stay in there. Again, what say you?
I think they're close enough to, you sort of have to. And and I guess, I mean, we probably should get into sort of the ways to make that happen. Well, actually, we do need to talk about the Harden situation. I imagine this is a bullet point further down on the outline, but just as it is now, so he's got the $42.3 million player option for next year, but I want to say, isn't only 13 million of that guaranteed? Do I have that right, or did I hallucinate that?
That number sounds right. I thought it was over. It wasn't. DeMar DeRozan has 10, so it sounds like James Harden would be the 13 one.
So that's relevant because it's not a situation where, okay, well, so he might just pick it up if the Cavs say we'll offer you 25 and 2 for 50 or something, unless but because like, well, I'm getting 42.3, he's not necessarily. It's gonna be, they could theoretically just be like, all right, later, dude, we're gonna pay you 13 million and you can leave. So they have some leverage there. I guess we probably should say. I just wanted to get that on the record because I couldn't remember if it the guaranteed number. So to get out of the second apron, I mean, you attach an asset to Sam Merrill. He makes $9 million next year.
Do you need an asset to get rid of Sam Merrill?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just looking at salary numbers because he makes 9. Schroeder, you would probably have to attach to get somebody to take his 14.8.
Yeah, plus he has another. I think he has a partial guarantee on that final year. He is guaranteed, 4.4 million in the final season, so the third year of that contract.
So there's ways to do it. Like, Merrill was a bad guy to start with because he's much more.
If I had to pick
someone like Schroeder,
my guess would be that it's like, do they look to dump Max Strus?
Doesn't he feel more important than Schroeder?
To me, he feels more important than Schroeder, but he's not someone I think you need to attach an asset.
Sure.
To,
okay. Yeah. By that logic, then that makes sense.
It's not. I don't want to say he's duplicative with Sam Merrill because Strus does things as a playmaker. They both kind of fight defensively. Strus is 6'5". Sam Merrill is. They're about the same size too, so they're not duplicative in any sense. But like that, if you're just looking to get rid of the salary, although he doesn't fit into he's making more than the mid-level. 15.9. Forgot about 16.7. Excuse me. So that complicates it a little bit. But there are trade exceptions out there that I think teams might just take him into. I mean, would Boston, Max Strus, and the Anthony Simons trade exception? Sure, why not? Yeah. And then you also, a team like the Bulls having cap space might think, oh, we could reroute the asset. So think about Max Strus in Detroit if they decide to operate with cap space.
Yeah. No, I think. I mean, I don't feel. I'm pretty confident because you kind of got to get out of it, right? So it's talking about the second apron, they got to figure something out,
and they can't do it with Harden's new contract alone. So he's at 42.3. If they what is what's a realistic? Could you get him to sign for 3 for 90, and you're saving 12 plus million?
I mean, I think you can get away with much less than that, assuming you want to as the Cavs, which I think because in some cases like this, you'd say, well, we want it to run longer or whatever because it's more tradable that way. I don't know if you're saying that, but to me, I want you get one more year at less than 30, and you can have a player option for the one after that, but it's going to have a similar partial guarantee. Like I think I forget where, I think it was Bobby Marks had it as give him 28 next year and 28 with a player option that's partially guaranteed for 12 in the following year. So it's 40 million guaranteed over 2 years, but it looks more like it's 56 or something like that. That feels like you could get away with that if you're the Cavs.
If he's slated to make, because you're saying they're trying to use the threat of, well, we're not going to guarantee your player opt, because if he just opts in, there's no way they're just saying, oh no, we'll waive you and eat the because that's I look at it as he's guaranteed 42.3 million next year. I don't think if he opts in, they're going to say, no, we're getting rid of you.
I don't think that's quite right. I think I don't know. Maybe you're right, but I would.
So now you've turned Darius Garland into a wave and stretch of
right.
James
It's
Harden.
It's not a great transaction tree to be sure, but I do think the fact that only 13. I really hope that's the right number because I'm going to say it a lot more.
It's 13.3. You're right.
Okay, he's only guaranteed 13.3 next year, and so you're right that it would be a pretty brutal turnaround to go from Darius Garland on a long-term multi-year deal, whatever you think about Garland, to giving James Harden $13 million to leave and getting nothing for him. I still think it's a lever you pull in the negotiating process. And you could say we'll give you, maybe the Bobby Marks one was like, I think he was framed as like what he would offer. And so that's not necessarily like what he's forecasting will be the ultimate contract resolution. But I'm starting with that hardball level. Cause like nobody else out there is going to pay James Harden. Like there's no cap space team that's going to want him. But and so is he going to take his 13 million and go get the mid-level somewhere? I don't know.
Well, so if so your thought was to guarantee him, get rid of this player option for now. You're guaranteeing him $40 million over the next 2 seasons or over the next 3?
2. I'm doing a 1+1 with him. I'm not going out
like 20 million flat, basically. Then you don't have to worry about getting out of the second apron because then you could probably re-sign Dean Wade and stay out of the second apron at that point.
I mean, I think I don't know what the numbers need to be. I'm anchored to the like, it's 2 for 56 or 2 for 54, but really only 40 million of that is guaranteed or something like that. So he's definitely, well, let's start here. Next year's salary, say it's fully guaranteed. What should that number be, do you think?
What should it be or what will it be? Because
I'll take both.
I think it's between 25 and 30. Because look, part of the problem with the Cavs, this is not like James Harden did not have a great looking at the conference finals specifically, did not have a great conference finals or a great playoff run in general. They should never have been that dependent on him. No. It's an indictment a little bit of Donovan Mitchell of how much they want the ball out
and
of his
Mobley
hand.
and like we've gone through this a little bit.
It's honestly a bigger indictment of Mobley, probably, because you knew what Donovan Mitchell was when you acquired him. So I think 30 sounds about right. And if I had to take the over or the under, I think it'll be over 30. If it's under 30, that's a really big win for the Cavs because let's just say it's 30 even. That's $12.5 million you shaved off your books without getting rid of the player. So what did we have them at with a 14-player roster? They project to be $6 million above the second apron. So now all of a sudden you're $7 million below the second apron. You might need to make other moves on the margins if you're looking to add talent. But like in theory, we have that as a 14-player roster. If James Harden goes that low, you open up the mini MLE. I don't know what that gets you, but
and guess what else I'm arguing now as the Cavs? Hey man, you're all you want is to win a championship. You take a deal in this range that enables us to use this other roster building tool. Do you want to win or not? Because if you squeeze us for 40 million a year or whatever, we can't go. We're going to be in the second, like our roster building tools diminish. You have the ability to open up another $6 million roster slot and give us flexibility to make this team better. Like I think that unless he just really wants the most he can possibly get, which I don't think is the case. I think Harden should be amenable to taking like he's made $1 bajillion at this point, and he has to know in the back of his mind there is no market for him around the league. Full stop. Nobody wants this guy at like anything other than we'll take him for a super huge discount. So I think the Cavs are just well positioned to make that argument, to make the hey, you're only guaranteed 13 million argument. I think there's really ways for them to tamp this down, and so. If we get to this being done and there's any year of salary on his contract that starts with a 3, like I think it's a mistake. I think you got to keep him in the 20s, and I think you squeeze him for that second year. Because I don't think he has alternatives.
I guess to me, it's to what end? Because you're doing that so that you can open the mini MLE, which turns into who? Dean Wade?
I don't know. I don't know, but like it's better than not having it.
Right. Well, I do think this brings up, what would you do with Donovan Mitchell? So you went through what the extension numbers is. And I'm using the projections of, I know a lot of people have the salary cap increasing by X amount. I'm using I don't remember what the number is, but it's a less than 10% increase. So it's around the ballpark of a 4-year, $275 million extension. Are you offering the full boat? Are you even, I don't want to spend too much time on it if you would, because I know they won't, but are you looking at trading him? At this
that's
point,
interesting. You don't think they'll offer the full 4-year max?
No, I'm saying I don't think they should. He probably has the leverage to get them to. If he had the leverage to play a part in them getting rid of Darius Garland and getting 10 years older with James Harden, who now needs to be paid, I'm assuming he has the leverage to get the full boat. I think the argument you made to James Harden, yes, Donovan Mitchell is still in his prime, but if Mobley can't be the best player or your number 2 option on offense, let's say, we're going to get into Mobley in a little bit, and Donovan Mitchell can't run your offense in the playoffs. They averaged, when James Harden was off the floor, and Donovan Mitchell was on the floor during the playoffs, the Cavaliers averaged 1.04 points per possession, which is just not great. And that number had to be even lower once they got to, they did face good defenses in Toronto and Orlando, and New York's defense is good too. But that's just not, his passing just isn't the same. And also he looked like he was kind of banged up.
Yeah,
so
as usual.
you've now decided that you need James Harden to be kind of, or you need a primary ball handler around him. I'm going to Donovan Mitchell and saying what you said to James Harden. Hey, you can sign this extension, but it's not going to put us in a position to continue building around you. But that does bring up my point of sort of to what end, because it's not going to happen. Them getting cheaper is not going to happen on the free agency market. It's not going to do anything for them. It's, well, what is the trade that you're setting up, because we can aggregate salaries, or if we stay under the second apron, we're willing to trade our 2031 or 2032 pick, since 2033 is frozen. But on the Donovan Mitchell front specifically, I'm just curious of where you land.
Well, it's interesting. I came into this thinking there's not that much to talk about, because they'll offer the 4-year max and he'll take it. And if he wants out at some point down the road, that it's happened a million times before. I guess.
I think you got to get some
the question like
on it to me, like 4 for $250 or just something like that's like kind of a ceremonial.
But who's the last guy at his level to top 10, fringe top 10, whatever? That's not Jalen Brunson that took a discount, at that.
Well, remember LeBron was willing to take a discount to get Jonas Valanciunas.
Okay, so there's one. Well, also he's going to have to take a discount so they can afford LeBron in Cleveland. That's the other thing.
I am curious though, like how is it, even like the Celtics haven't encountered this just yet, I don't think anyway. They haven't had to sign an extension like this after coming out of the second apron. Ditto for even Phoenix. I know they extended Devin Booker, but it was a shorter term extension. We've been waiting for when is someone, and I don't like putting the onus on Mitchell, but this was, the aprons were collectively bargained. I'm just waiting for the time where it is, wow, this guy took less than, even if it's, again, a superficial amount, where he could get 4 for $275. Is he taking 4 for $260 or something? Remember what Carmelo did when he re-signed with the Knicks way back when in 17? I don't remember what the year was, 2016, 15, whatever, whereas he took like a little bit off the max but it seems like the way that team building works now and how you need depth and how you need to allocate your resources is it's only a matter of time before someone in Donovan Mitchell's position winds up not getting the full max for which he's eligible.
Maybe it is, but I feel like the apron era makes it, if you want to win, it makes it, I guess, it's more incumbent on you as a player in Mitchell's position to take less to enable your team, to enable your owner to save money, and to enable your team to win, or to outfit the roster with just having more options to do that. I kind of feel like we're just going to keep waiting for it to happen for the most part, and it's not going to happen. And also, maybe that's too cynical. I don't know.
No, I think he also positioned himself to be in this position to get this exact extension too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, maybe maybe the more interesting question is like, what should the Cavs pay Donovan Mitchell? It's not what will they offer, what will he accept, which is max, I think. And then it's just a question of, well, where does he rank? Like, if he's not a guy that can be the best player on a championship team, does that mean that he just shouldn't be making more than $40 million a year or something? Like, I don't know. I don't know what that means. That's a much larger question that I don't think we're going to be having to answer, because I really do.
You think he gets the full? You think he signs the full?
I think, he's not going to turn it down. So if he were to, let's just game it out. If Cleveland says, hey, what about like a 2+1 or something, and at the max, maybe he'd do that, right? Like maybe he wants an earlier crack at free agency. I don't know if Cleveland would offer that. Maybe Cleveland probably values as many lockdown years as possible for trade purposes, if nothing else. And then like, yeah, I could imagine fewer years. I just don't see less than the max. I just, even while conceding, he probably isn't quite worth that over the full term, which is, by the way, going to be we're heading decline phase. Like
age 31, the extension
yeah.
kicks in. So
yeah, so that's a factor. But yeah, I think it's just the max. I don't know. Maybe that's.
I'm gonna predict he signs. I'm just gonna keep predicting that someone signs for less than it.
I mean, honestly, I hope you're right, because I would love for that dam to break and we just start to see. But then again, it gets back to the like. So we're rooting for the billionaire owner now to save a little bit. Like, why don't we want these guys to get all they can, you know?
And also, I don't know, do you feel better about, is it a unique circumstance because Cleveland did go into the second apron and might still be going into the second apron? Maybe you feel differently about it, but no, I'm not rooting for, but I do look at this as the realities of team building. And again, it's not I'm not rooting for ones. I want players to get paid more than I prefer the billionaire owners to rack up the dollars, but this was collectively bargained. And so I think this is a reality, especially in a Cavs situation where now you're at a point, because you're so asset light, you need every advantage.
Right.
Beyond Mitchell, though, if you're ready to move on, I wanted to ask, what is this team, what is their biggest need to you? I think the default is they've been searching for that wing, that fifth player in the that perfect fifth player in the closing line since basically Donovan Mitchell came over. That's still a need, but I think some people have gotten into, well, no, they need a more of a wholesale shift, whether it's reorient around Evan Mobley or more likely trade one of the bigs to reorient around Donovan Mitchell and James Harden.
I think those are absolutely the two questions to ask, two issues to discuss. The small forward spot. We talked about this recently because I remember you talking about DeAndre Hunter seemed like the answer till he wasn't. And here they are with just a bunch of interchangeable fifth options that put something on the table and take something off. And so therefore they don't have any ideal fifth starters or closers there. I think what I'm coming around to is what they have now with their best four players is not good enough for them to advance farther in the playoffs than they did. Even though, as Kenny Atkinson said, analytically, Dan, they were right there. They were right there, man. And that counts, maybe there's a trophy for that.
Is 4-0 not a form of analytics either, though?
Seems like, I mean, if you want to be like really like simple about it, I guess 4 is more than 0, I guess, sure. But do you agree with that as a premise that you can't bring these core 4 guys back, hope to get someone that's marginally better than Wade or Strus or Merrill or whatever, and expect let's just say advancing further than they did? Is that fair?
No, because I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, please do.
Think about just sort of the chain of events. So the Knicks are in the NBA Finals after losing the conference finals last year.
Oh.
Now, last year, the Pacers made the finals after losing in the conference finals the year before.
Tell me about the Celtics now.
Didn't the Celtics lose the conference finals the year before they went to the NBA Finals?
Okay. Surely there's not another one.
I don't think there is, actually. I think it ends there. So
therefore, it's a streak. It's a trend.
I wouldn't even say that's proof of concept, no? Isn't that proof of theorem? So, but
mathematical certainty.
I'm with you in the sense that even if things broke right, and I also don't know that the landscape could have broke better for Cleveland than it did this year, where you don't have the Pacers. We thought the Celtics could they be sleeping juggernauts because Tatum was coming back, but you didn't need to go through them. The Detroit Pistons were an excellent team, ostensibly have a bright future, but they had a fatal flaw, which when we talk about title contenders, you're not really trying, like, look at the Spurs and the Thunder, and like the way the Knicks are playing right now, like, what's the fatal flaw? You can't, it's harder to spot at that point. So I would agree with that. I think that's a reasonable premise to make, which are you trying to get at? So I'm going to ask a question back at you to say, we've moved beyond, they need to find the perfect fifth player for that core unit.
That's what I'm getting at. And I think just to add to that, to support that, I would say initially, the shot math thing that Atkinson is referring to, that's not nothing. That's you know what? Like over the long run, maybe you make what you're supposed to make and the other team makes what it's supposed to make. Having said that, you don't get to look at this let's look at this roster. I would argue that of the top 4 players, this isn't even an argument, of the top 4 players, the only guy who's at a point in his career where improvement feels likely is Mobley. And all we've done is be frustrated by his rate of improvement. So like, you don't get to just bank on, and with apologies to Jalen Tyson, I'm not seeing anybody else in a meaningful role that's like, that guy's going to pop. And you know what? He's going to pop so much that it offsets what to me is inevitable further decline from Harden, probable decline from Mitchell, and maybe Jared Allen just stays exactly how he is or whatever. Right? Like if you're just projecting what the main guys on this roster are likely to look like next year, I think you're netting out worse than you are right now today. I don't think there's enough clear guaranteed improvers to offset the guaranteed decliners. So that's another factor in like, okay, cool shot math, but like we're probably going to be worse talent wise going forward. So like that's not being solved by the next DeAndre Hunter or whatever level, like that level of player in between these other four. I don't, and then that's without even throwing out the like, okay, so you got to beat the Spurs or the Thunder or the Knicks or the Pistons or whoever else rises.
So let's assume, because they could get there salary wise, can they stay under the second apron because they can't aggregate salaries without doing that? If you were, and maybe you're willing to overpay in first round equity, Andrew Wiggins opts in. If you add Andrew Wiggins to, is that a good enough player to change your view of the, now you've become very top heavy.
Yeah. And I do love Andrew Wiggins.
I'm just trying to think of who would be the best or the worst best player that you could add for you to move on. Because if it's better than Andrew Wiggins, then it's not happening. It's just,
I don't. First of all, if you're talking about, so that would be a trade if you're having him opt in, right? It's not a
for
you're
30,
not signing
right?
anybody. We rule out signings. Free agents like just start.
Well, LeBron even coming for the minimum isn't going to do it for them, I don't think.
Oh man, well that might be. You could talk me into that one. I think, or at least I would like to see that. I don't know if that's another like the heart is trumping the head a little bit there. Wiggins, man, that's an interesting cutoff. I would say that I would at least entertain the idea. I wouldn't be like just totally dismissive of that level of player. It like anything below that. So now I'm just looking at free agents, so I'm not going to come
Jones
up with any.
Or even Trey. Yeah, Herb Jones.
Yeah, Trey Murphy. You might be just better than Wiggins, but maybe not necessarily for what Cleveland's trying to accomplish.
Yeah,
on that fifth spot. I wouldn't dismiss the just to use Wiggins specifically as good as like, well, that's not going to do it. I mean, like maybe Wiggins is also 31, so that's another one where it's like, ooh, he's not even 2022 Wiggins anymore. That's interesting.
What you're talking about then is more of just a like wholesale facelift trading. Who is the guy who is the odd man out here? We know it's not Harden because you're just not gonna, unless you're moving him as salary, you convince him to opt in and you're just moving him as the $42 million number to go get player X, which would be, can we build some sort of Harden goes back to the Clippers and Cleveland gets Kawhi? We could get that package going? That'd be hysterical.
Well, so can they aggregate?
Only if they stay beneath the second apron. So you could game it that.
Could. Look, this is another reason to get Harden to sign for way less.
Well, let's assume they avoid the second apron, but let's hit the low hanging fruit here. Yeah. Should they be a Giannis team, knowing that it's costing you Evan Mobley? And I just want to get out in front of this. I've seen Bucks fans kind of poo-poo. I've seen Bucks media poo-poo the idea of Evan Mobley for Giannis as a structure. Evan Mobley, I would argue, is the single best young player that you were going to get. And like, if we go back and look at the Giannis return, I doubt they're going to get a prospect as good as Evan Mobley is now or even could be. So I don't want to dismissing his value. Who else? What's the
No. I think you're probably right about that. I mean, you could cop out and say, but this isn't what you're saying, but like, well, one of the picks they get might end up being number one or something. And that guy might be better than Evan Mobley. But even then, I don't know. The dude was defensive player of the year. Like we focus on what he can't do, but I think you're probably right. So I guess the question is Mobley plus the just nothing burger of two first rounders enough?
Number 29, Grant. Come on. You basically said the draft doesn't matter. Your support of the lottery system proves it.
I mean, I think, okay, so that's the Bucks side of it, right? It's like you got to concede probably you're not getting a better player than Mobley that's his age in a Giannis deal. From the Cavs side, this is just like further committing to like, oh my God, we need to win today, right? Because Mobley is your guy. Mobley's kind of your ticket out if there's another scenario where you blow everything up and you just start over with Mobley as the best player on the team, maybe that gets you somewhere, maybe it doesn't. But like, at least that's kind of an appealing exit strategy. If you go Giannis in that spot, you're fully committed. Not saying that's wrong. That's just the reality of it. Of like, there is no tomorrow situation. This is like a Matt Ishbia wet dream of a roster where it's like the years beyond to this year do not exist. We're just trying. That's like an outdated Matt Ishbia thing, but still, you know what I mean? Like, does that make you uncomfortable? The idea,
yes.
the Giannis of it all. You don't like it?
I wouldn't do it because I just think that to me, it's okay to truncate your window to such extremes when I think that you would have a ton of title equity. And just given Harden's getting older, what we know that Donovan Mitchell, or at least the Cavs do not think Donovan Mitchell is, Giannis' own injury history now, coupled with his age, coupled with what you need to pay him, to me, it's more palatable to roll the dice on something else and say, if it goes bad, we get to reorient around Evan Mobley, a defensive player of the year winner, who's still on the right side of 25, rather than, well, we have no picks and all we have are these expensive superstars aging into their 30s, or in Harden's case, closer to 40. I understand if you have Giannis next year, fully healthy, you probably have a better chance of winning the title in 2027. I don't know that you can say that beyond next season at all.
Right. I agree with that. I'm going to spoil something I was going to use for a future pod, but is Giannis 32, 31, whatever it is. So you would be committing to a core of Mitchell, who will be in his age 30 season. Harden will be in his age 37. And then Giannis, I think, is 31, 32.
He'll be in his age 32 season next year.
Of the top 50 players in playoff minutes this postseason, there are 3 over the age of 30 who are still playing right now. Ooh. And that's Kat, Josh Hart, who are both 30, and Alex Caruso, who is 31. Everybody else older than that is not in the top 50 of playoff minutes this year. So you're telling me, I think you're right that Giannis equals better championship odds next season. But does he? Because now you got 3 guys on the wrong side of 30. I'm spoiling stuff I was going to say at another pod, but I'm more convinced than ever that if you don't have elite athleticism and youth right now, you're just going to break down and you are not a serious contender. The Cavs would be going totally against that.
The playoffs seem more than ever like a war of attrition.
And a war of attrition fought that is also a young man's game, paradoxically. Like within it's not an old man's game. All the experience and all that stuff is necessary, but it just can't be coming from someone that's 33 or what. Those guys are not still playing. They're not. It's just we've entered an era where you just cannot compete at that age. So that's just another. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir because you're kind of out on the Giannis of it all, but
I don't think it's
a bigger risk than it even seems. I think,
right?
Even if you're going for 1 year.
And honestly, I'd probably feel I'm more open to it now than I was pre-Darius Garland trade, because part of me is just like, well, you already kind of just fucked this. My whole thing was you get to reorient around Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, and now it's just Evan Mobley. So yeah, you might as well do it. I'm not doing it if I'm Cleveland. I know that doesn't cater enough to the immediate, but I just don't think your chances of winning. Think about the teams that will be. The Knicks aren't going anywhere. The Celtics should be better. I would argue the Pacers will be healthier. The Pacers will be back. One of these other teams could break through in the East. Detroit is going to just won 60 games while we said they were deeply flawed.
What if Charlotte has the bounce next year? There's
Charlotte's
a lot.
The Giannis team all along.
I mean, say more.
If we are in agreement that it's not Giannis, I wanted to go through some names to throw at you. And I don't even know if the Cavs have the assets to do this, but some semblance of, I don't even know who needs to give picks back. Does a Jared Allen for Derek White swap do anything for you?
I'm interested in it theoretically. I would also note that White is in his 30s and just came off a terrible season for him.
Offensively.
Yeah. All the catch-alls, he's still just as good as he gets. Is he? I think White's a better player than Allen. I would wonder if he is capable of guarding up as often as he would have to. That I'm not dismissing that one. I kind of like that one just because I like Derek White so much, and force Mobley to play center all the time and see what happens.
Can you do something? I think you would need to attach picks to this. Maybe not, but Jared Allen goes back to Texas for like Max Christie, PJ Washington, Derek Lively.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think your pick, not just this year's pick, by the way, I think your 32 pick is probably gone in this scenario.
Boy, Lively sure comes with a lot of risk, but it does almost feel like the centerpieces are the wings / forwards you're throwing in there. I guess the counter question would be, are Christie and Washington probably, and you've kind of seen proof of concept on some good Dallas teams. Are those guys good, like a level? Is the margin between them and the Struces and Wades and whatever's big enough for that to you know what I mean? Like, are you just adding more like B minuses to the equation?
Who do you think in a playoff series, when you're looking at those names, let's say Merrill, specifically Strus, PJ Washington, and Max Christie, it does feel like Christie would be like, who would we most likely to look back on saying, oh, they provided everything. There was some ball handling, there was shot making off the ball, and there was defense.
I mean, I would say Washington's the first name that comes to mind. Maybe I'm too anchored to
the shooting for me is with Washington.
Yeah, he filled the role, the exact role we're talking about on that Dallas team a couple of years ago after he came over from Charlotte. But yeah, maybe I'm anchored to that. Sure, either one of those. That's a pretty good, and the Lively wild card of it is really interesting because maybe he's just a better player than Jared Allen. Like from the moment that trade happens, that's possible. Yeah, that's interesting. I like the different shots at it if you're not going super duper star.
We already went through, and this is where it gets tough, though, is this wouldn't be a Jared Allen thing, but like an Andrew Wiggins scenario you would be on board with. So you're keeping the core four together, basically mortgage, like your 2032 pick is probably out the door, and you're getting Andrew Wiggins, and you've given up at least you've given up Merrill. It's probably like Strus and Schroeder for like the framework there, plus that pick, and if not, number 29 as well, depending on what the thought.
Yeah.
That seems like a lot for Andrew Wiggins, but that's the structure is what I mean.
Right. You could talk me into that, but I will just admit to being like, I just like Andrew Wiggins. I don't know if objectively that's because like you can just imagine the series that they lose because Wiggins shoots 27% from three, you know, or like that's just that seems like a real possibility to me.
This is another tough one, and you are still getting older. So you're not trading Jared Allen in this scenario. You're using your other salaries. So we're operating under the assumption that you've re-signed James Harden and ducked the second apron. It's, again, I don't know what pick would need to be included, but you're looking at Merrill, Strus, Schroeder as the primary matching salary. Not all three of them, but some combination thereof, because you don't have, after Merrill, it's Jalen Tyson at 3.7 makes nothing. Does Drew Holiday do anything for you?
Man, it's a little bit like the Derek White trade plus several years of age. I do trust Holiday to guard up a little, maybe at least as much as I trust White. And I mean, the shooting is like, is it advantage Holiday at this point somehow for 3-point shooting? I think the age. I think Holiday might just be, that's just you're getting too much older. Like Harden and Holiday together, that's 70 plus years of basketball player age.
I don't have any just other realistic names for this team. They can't be involved in like a Tari Eason sign and trade is out of the question for them because they can't be hard capped in that. I thought about, would it be interesting, but I just don't know that they have, I guess if they're getting a pick, like could you get Aaron Gordon to this team and have a Gordon Mobley front court and maybe Allen heads to a third team?
Yeah. You're taking on a lot of risk with the injury there, but I'd like the Mobley Gordon fit is really, I mean, that's, if everybody's standing upright and has good hamstrings, that's pretty intriguing. Do you go ahead. Sorry. Well, I was going to pivot to just like as long or as brief of a LeBron conversation as you wanted to have.
I mean, if he's want to come for the minimum or even the mini MLE, if that's what you end up with, why not? I mean, because if the whole thing was you want Donovan Mitchell off the ball in the playoffs, LeBron is, because the other thing that I think might be a takeaway from the play, we're just spoiling a pod we have for after the finals, but like, it feels like you need to have ball handlers who don't need any type of screen to really like to fully activate your offense. Like that, those are more important than ever. LeBron, like James Harden James Harden's arguably always needed a screen if you want to get him downhill. But now if you can't trust maybe the step back or just like the pull up, even more so getting his shots and creating space that way, LeBron's is better equipped going into his age 42 season to do that than Harden, right? Which is that's not anything against Harden. I think that's just a testament to LeBron.
No, I think that's true. I mean, that is an interesting one. Just that point you're raising about like, is the problem actually that the Cavs don't have enough guys that can create shots? And this is a team that has Donovan Mitchell and James Harden playing in the backcourt together. I don't know. I just wanted to raise LeBron. Just would feel like
I think you do it right. He's not,
I think the question is would he do it?
Yeah, I don't think he should. I think he should go to the Warriors.
I mean, if you're trying to win a title,
the
I mean,
Knicks,
that's the thing is like they're not all equal. Like another title in Cleveland would just be like beyond storybook. But
I do
that's
think
that's not your best chance if you're just picking any destination.
If we had Spurs Knicks in the finals, I think he should just go to whichever team loses.
Yeah, really show KD how to do it right.
Right. Yeah. I have two more that I thought were out there. They could technically be considered out there enough to be sort of paywall trades. The least out there of them is some type of structure. I'd probably prefer Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but I think that he's more valuable to Atlanta. Like, is there a Dyson Daniels, Jared Allen swap to build? Whichever other equity you need to figure out there.
I just don't believe in Daniels as a piece of a like good lineup in a postseason series. I just can't see it. I mean,
the defense would be insane, and he's a pretty good screener now.
Yeah,
but
he could. I mean, if you paired that with somehow getting another 7-foot person that could really shoot it, sure. But like, that's
go ahead
not
and sign
what
Mamu.
Yeah.
Done.
I don't think you can afford him.
The other one is I'd want to know the salaries don't match perfectly. I don't think. But even if they did, I don't know which assets go which way. An Evan Mobley for Jaylen Brown swap.
Oh, wow. That would really change. I mean, I don't hate it. Even though because like if Mobley's not going to be a real creator, then doesn't Brown Brown for all his flaws, like is doing what you said, someone that can you get me a shot without us having to run several things to facilitate it? And like, yeah, absolutely. He probably better than Mitchell
sure can.
So that might be, I mean, I think that's changing a lot, but like, I mean, he's a good defender. I think I would be on board with that. What do you think Cavs fans' reaction to that would be? Are they out on Mobley enough?
I think I brought this up too many times, but every experience I've had where something I've said or written about how the Cavs shouldn't trade Mobley for Giannis has been met with disdain on social media from Cavs fans. So I'm not painting them all with a broad brush, but I wouldn't even feel comfortable with that because Jaylen Brown's not ancient, but what is he? Isn't he 31 too? So like that's just, how old is Jaylen Brown? I don't know his age. Let's say Jaylen Brown next year will be in his age 29 season. 23rd, age 30 season. So a little younger than Donovan Mitchell. That's the one I would consider that before I would consider, I think, the Giannis thing. Giannis is the better talent, but the sustainability of it feels untenable.
Yeah, and as crazy as Brown's contract is, Giannis's next one will go out farther. So there's that too.
Well, Brown's extension eligible too this summer. That just keeps happening. I do think like we've kind of hit on the nose that this is if we feel materially better or different about the Cavs, they have traded a core member or they've given up some first round equity to do something. And I think we've identified like kind of the worst best player. There's a really would be an Andrew Wiggins if you were able to game that. I'm not going to even Trey Murphy. One, I don't think they have the assets to get him. Even if they did, I don't think he gives you enough defensively. Maybe that doesn't matter if Evan Mobley's still there, but I'm assuming you won't have Jared Allen in that scenario. Herb Jones isn't going to do it. Like just bringing Dean Wade back is not going to do it. So it's such a weird thing to say because they have so much talent at the top, but the only other way to feel differently is you tell me this time next year, we're looking back at, Evan Mobley was the Cavs' second best offensive player. No worse than it.
Non-zero chance, right? Like that's still a way out.
There's a 0 chance now, I think, because you traded his that's unfair. That was first takey. But like you traded his best partner in Darius Garland to now what James Harden needs from a screener is not really what Evan Mobley does. And if you don't trust Donovan Mitchell to be that guy, how are you putting Mobley in position to succeed on offense? Is it heavily staggering minutes from both of them or giving him the ball at the expense of them?
He develops the way that we hoped he would. And now like all the head down drives and self-sufficient offense happens a lot. Like that's the way, right? Because we're talking about Mobley being your driver of offense effectively. Like it's not likely, but I don't know. I guess
it feels less likely in the Harden era than it did before, because it's even if you used him like Towns, where the Knicks don't, like Towns isn't moving and grooving a ton. He gets the ball at the top and stuff happens around him. He lets it develop. That's not happening with James Harden.
I was just going to say, you know who doesn't move at all ever for any reason? James Harden. It's like, it's a fact. Like somebody tracked it. He doesn't move. You got anything else?
Well, before we wrap up, we have to do the question we do more than once a year. Over under on the number of the 4 best players returning. And James Harden, Donovan, the faces and names have changed. The exercise has not. I'm going to set it at a very conservative. We've gone higher in years past.
Yes.
0.5.
That's the number. That's the right number. For funsies and hopeful and wishful thinking, I'm going to go over because of what we just talked about. If this team is serious about materially changing its outlook, somebody got to go, and somebody new's got to come in. So I'll go over. Isn't it interesting that number's lower than it's been in like any of the last 2 or 3 seasons?
Well, the one when it was higher was, remember they came off the loss, was that to the Knicks or the Pacers, where it was Jared Allen doesn't care and everybody hates him or whatever. So I'm taking the under for 2 reasons. One, I think it's just really like you're not moving Mitchell or Harden feasibly. I don't know what you get for Allen. And I think moving Mobley would be insane.
Yep.
So like short of getting, like even for Giannis, to me, it would be insane. It'd have to be somebody else. But I'm also throwing it out there as a second reason because I'm manifesting it actually happening. I'm like magnetically pulling the chaos towards us because I'm going to be wrong. That's what
there you go. We want the same thing. We're just going about it different ways.
Do you have anything else? Or that's a 2+ hour live stream. You're welcome, everyone, or we're sorry.
Yeah, either way. No, I think that's going to do it. Let's see. I got to pull up a couple things here. As always, remember, rate, review, and subscribe. One of the great ways you can support the podcast is to do so on Patreon. The links for that are in the podcast, YouTube and podcast description. That's give me the address again, Dan. I don't have it in front of me. It's Patreon at HardwoodKnocks /
Patreon.com/HardwoodKnocks NBA. You get all those cool, you see those cap sheets that would cheat off-season sheets we had up there. You get access to all those too.
Yours for the taking, plus discounts on merch. We have a bunch of bonus free ad-free content available on Patreon as well. Just check it out. If it's the best way really to support the podcast, as is telling your friends, telling your enemies. And I think that's going to do it. A good long live stream there for us. Shouts Frank Ntilikina. Apologies, Jared Allen.